nothing honest from ya. Excuse me, but I won't buy into your big lie. No need to bother me tonight. They shoot you down this time and I won't fight. I got my head held high. This time, no, no. This time, yeah. This time, no, no.
Good morning, a little bit earlier than usual. We're live with the mid-season update show. I'm your host, Hindu Man, and I'll be joined soon by a lot of the developers of the game SMITE to see exactly what we've got going on this patch. We've got a lot of stuff coming in this patch with regards to ranked updates, new item tree to talk about, alongside a ridiculous amount of a ton of god balance and rework potential things as well to talk about. But first of all, let's have a little look at some of the skins that you may be able to see in the patch coming up. We're going to see Power Up Hera first of all on your screen. That looks amazing. I'm excited to see that one in game. Not only that, we'll have Fun Apocalypse Jubalong. What? Hello? That looks a little bit... Okay, that's a little bit scary. Fun Apocalypse Jubalonke. Yes, that's Jubalonke. Following that, it's Sweetie Pie Soul. Yes, she's got all the candy on show once more. And then following that, we'll also see some Sweet Justice Nemesis. She's very sweet. Oh, back to Hera again real quick for a second. And then we'll see Rematch Hera is what it is this time round. Following Rematch Hera, we'll also have Zappy Chibi Zeus. Yes, a new Chibi skin. This time, oh, look at the little cute love heart too. Love the card art with these. Spirit Sun Hoagie. And not just Spirit Sun Hoagie. Yes, there's still 4 more skins to go. Snow Strix Ra. Oh, he looks evil. I like it. A little bit Ymir-esque. Molten Shogun Erlang Shen. After Molten Shogun Erlang Shen, we've got the one that I saw earlier on. Infantry Sylvanas. The deadliest tree this side of the Atlantic. And last, but certainly not least, the Great Tengu Kernanos will also be available in this update. But with that, it's enough for the skins for the time being. It's time to move on to the most important part of this section. And that's all about the balance and updates you're going to see to SMITE in the coming months. And to do so, I'm going to be joined by some lovely guests on the casual set today. It's none other than Pom Pom, Clumsy, and AJ. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Are you all prepared and ready?
Oh, yeah.
It's early, but I'm ready.
Feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm excited by where we're going to start off with today, first of all. We're going to start off with some ranked updates, first of all. First thing to mention is the queue time is going to be going down. We're going to be reducing the queue time from 9 minutes to 7 minutes. And a note here says that ranked is in a healthier state than it has been for a while, showing MMR and changes to the progression pace and seem to be going well. We can likely reduce the queue time now as well. So it's coming down from 9 to 7 minutes. Is that just to try and speed things up, guys? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, so that's what a lot of these changes are aimed to do, is speed up the pace of the ranked conquest experience. You have to go into a queue, and then you have to go into a lobby, and the lobby can take some time, and so we just want to make sure that that feels a lot quicker to get actually into the action. And as a note, it's something that we might experiment with more as the patch continues. We might actually try different times and push it lower and lower, and see how low we can actually push the queue before we actually start hindering matchmaking to a point where we can't go any lower.
Okay, so that's going to be a work in progress thing then overall.
We know this is a priority for our players, but there is just a factual correlation between queue time and matchmaking quality. Yep. It fluctuates a bit based on region and time of day, but we want to do our best to minimize this wait time as much as possible. So we're trying to speed up lobbies, speed up queues, and just make sure people get in the game.
Now, the next thing to mention on this is going to be an increase in the amount of bans in your game in the ranked modes. We're going to be increasing the ban count from 8 to 10 in all ranked modes. So in Conquest, there's going to be 2 additional bans. That's going to come at the end of the first ban phase. Joust the same way. Duel also, but it's only 1 phase of bans there. Competitive play will also be using this new ban system, but options will exist in custom games to use previous and lower count ban systems. Gentlemen, why the increase in bans?
More bans, more gods, more bans, right?
Yep.
This is something the community's been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, quite a bit. We see it, from the high levels play as well as just the casuals on social media, and we've got a lot of gods now. We've been pumping them out, so I think that means a few more bans will help in the competitive scene.
Yeah,
so
ranked.
more bans can have a difficult to predict outcome. We expect that certain gods we're gonna see their ban rate increase. We want the community to be aware of that going forward. Now, since we're just adding bans, it might give us some weird sense of balance, right? Some gods are going to jump up in ban rate. We're going to have more 100% pick ban type of scenarios in SPL, and that's not going to mean that the game's less balanced. It's just going to be that we added more bans. I'm sure people are going to make that mistake. I'll be correcting people on Reddit and Twitter all day, but want to talk about it up front. We want to be honest, and talk about the results. So it's going to mean that some of the best gods are not going to get played as much.
Yeah, some of the newer gods for sure.
Truth. is that's going to happen. But we think that from community feedback, the way we've been discussing with the Olympians and the pro players, the frustration factors and the ability to block out more picks, which actually should open up a lot of viability in the lower end and the middle parts of the god classes, right? So you can box out more gods that counter you, that might make more wide variety of solo laners available. We're hoping that we end up seeing some more variation. We hope we'll see a lot of positive outcomes from this as well as we know the community just been wanting it, been asking it, so this should be a fantastic feature.
Well, the other thing on this list as well is quicker draft lobbies. Obviously, even with the bans increasing, we're trying to lower the amount of time you spend picking and banning. And so what we're going to be seeing here is decrease the pick time from 30 seconds to 20 seconds, decrease the ban time from 30 seconds to 15 seconds, and also increase, though, the bank time from 30 seconds to 40 seconds. So that's just to allow in case there's a bit of a window there where people are off.
With adding more bans, we want to make sure that the lobby didn't take much longer, and it's already been like a big frustration where the lobbies can take a long time. I did the math on it. It's about 10 minutes if everyone goes to like max time. Even with these new bans, these new numbers actually push that max time down to 7 minutes, so pretty heavy reduction. And because there's a lot quicker pace and you have to make a lot more quick decisions and what bans you're going to do and what picks you're going to do, we want to give a little bit of extra bank time so that people can discuss things when they're actively trying to actively pick and ban.
That's fair. The last thing I've got on this list of ranked updates as well is reset logic, but there's no notes.
We're going to make some adjustments to how we're resetting at a split. Last split was a little too intense. We're going to be cutting that intensity in half.
Okay.
It's a big change. You're not your MMR is not going to change as much on this next split reset. And we're going to continue to look into TP and promotion progress throughout the upcoming splits to see if we can smooth this out. I think the combination MMR TP has been really successful so far. Like Pon mentioned at the beginning, we've had a lot of people playing ranked. We've had a lot of people appreciating this more feedback about their skill as they're changing. But it's a complicated system, and there's a lot of ways that it can be balanced, and we're still working the finer points out.
Well, that's it for ranked for now, but now we're going to move on to... Well, I'm surprised you guys have organized the show this way this week. We're going to start off with a new item tree, and this is always one of the things that is always like, ooh, what are we going to be doing here? This tree, though, is under the Arthurian? How do you want to say it? Arthurian.
Sounds better when you say it.
I know, and I just wanted to check how the Americans wanted me to say it. I don't want to offend people. We'll start things off with the Arthurian tree then, and that's where this item tree is going to be. What's the whole objective of this tree, gentlemen, before we get into the numbers and such?
Yeah, so I think the big goal of this tree was to bring something first unique to items. Items in our game often have these kind of more passive effects. You don't have much control over when they activate, and so we wanted to give some players a way to like actually use the effect when they really, really want to. And often that comes with using your ultimate ability. And so these new item trees focus on when you use your ultimate ability, you will gain an effect that is unique to each class and is often class defining. It'll help classes focus their identity more. Mask kind of broadened it so that you could flex into a different class. These items more focus your goal towards your class.
Okay.
This item tree is really exciting because, well, it's themed all around King Arthur and Camelot and those legends. The items are themed in that way. And their gameplay applications are different than anything else. So these items are grouped together in a tree, even though they have very different stats. There's a tank one, an assassin one, a mage one, an assassin warrior, and a hunter one, all in the same tree. But they all share the same kind of passive trigger, which occurs only when you fire your ultimate, and it has a cooldown, so it'll work with stancers and things like that.
Gotcha.
So although you're going to see different stances or different types of stats in this tree, the items are all connected through that sense. And items have really far-reaching implications in the game, right? Because any god can build these new items. So we're going to see a lot of meta shifts, we expect, and a lot of characters go up and down based on these items.
Okay, well, with this tree, then, there's going to be 3 tiers to the tree. So to build the whole item, you're going to have to get tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 of the item will be Gem of Fate. Its cost is 900, and you get 10% cooldown reduction for building that. Tier 2 is where it'll branch off then. Honed Edge will cost 1600 gold and have 10% cooldown reduction and 30 physical power. Apprentice Staff will have be same cost of 1600, 10% cooldown reduction and 50 magical power. And the Night Shield will cost the same amount as 1600 gold, be 10% cooldown reduction, 25 physical protections, and 25 magical protections. And that's where we get to our very first tier 3 item. Be ready at home, because the drama will unfold, I'm sure, with these. Builds from Honed Edge is the first one, and this is the Hunters Only item. It's called Fail Not, I believe.
Fail Not.
I like that name. Hunters Only. Zap, you listening? 2,800 gold is how much it'll cost. 20% cooldown reduction, 50 physical power, 25% chance to crit, and passive. After you finish casting your ultimate ability, your next ability cast within 5 seconds that damages an enemy god marks them, increasing the chance they will be critically struck by 15% for 10 seconds. This can only trigger once every 45 seconds.
Yep, and one important note is it says ability, but also basic attacks will trigger this as well. So any damaging basic attack or ability that you cast.
Now, we should be able to see this in game real quick, and you guys can talk me through a little bit more about what the idea of this is. Obviously, it's after you use your ultimate, so like a World Weaver with Neath here, you're going to get bonus crit chance.
Yep. And so the goal here is really to focus on a kind of like niche that hasn't really existed for the ability hunters, which is going into these more single heavy hitting crit builds. It has a lot of power, a lot of CDR, which is the stats that you want on those characters. The critical strike is generally more for the in-hand hunters and allowing you to kind of like mess around with that stat distribution to try and create an optimal build is interesting. And not only that is it's a critical strike debuff to the target to make them take critical strikes, which means other characters that haven't built crit yet, including maybe Ymir, could crit.
Oh, wait, hold on. This item will impact your teammates' chance to crit as well, not just you.
It's a crit debuff
What?
on the target, not a crit buff to you.
Did I just read it wrong?
So
Is
as
that
you
what it
see,
was?
no, you read it.
No, you read it correct.
Right?
It's
Okay,
just
I
a
was like,
little-
wait, I didn't see that bit in the text.
A bit of a
So
secret.
if you see here that Neath that's on screen, you can see he's putting this green crosshair on the Odin target. If you get a little closer, please. After the first damage triggers, you can put that green crosshair. That means you're
see it.
fail knotted. That means you can be crit by anyone who hits you, including minions and jungle camps. Last I checked,
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Fire
and
giant?
jungle bosses.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
so
telling me
excited to
Fire
see
Giant
that.
can crit?
Basic attack with his basic attack.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. See,
Anyone can be
Right.
crit.
Because you're not going to be crit off
saw
of
this
abilities.
item, I'll be honest, I wasn't too excited about it because, hey, it's an ultimate, on a hunter. I'm like, all right, cool. So Neef's going to use a World Weaver and crit afterwards. That's not going to be effective. But she could now ult across the map and then give that person crit chance to
Well,
kill the
just to
target.
clarify, for all of these items, you have to fire your ultimate and then follow up. It doesn't just attach to your ultimate.
Gotcha.
All
Correct.
of these items require additional playmates after the ultimate. So in this examples, what you saw gameplay, he was firing the World Weaver. That's not applying the Fail Knot. That's
Okay.
just activating the Fail Knot passive.
And then once he
then
attacks
the
afterwards.
next ability or basic attack is applying the Fail Knot passive.
Okay.
So you cannot Neath World Weaver crit debuff someone across the map.
While they're at the Fire Giant pit, you actually have to
But
be
you
there.
can summon someone across the map and then crit debuff someone closer to you.
Okay.
And that's going to be a theme with all of the items. You'll have to follow up after the ultimate. We wanted to make sure that this extended the fight as opposed to just one-shot people.
Yep.
Well, we can move on then to the next one in this tree, and it will be the next tier 3, which is Arendite, I believe. This builds out of Honed Edge, and it's for the warriors and assassins only. It'll cost 2,600 gold. It'll have 10% cooldown reduction, 55 physical power, and the passive says that after casting your ultimate ability, reveal all enemies within 120 feet of you. While moving towards revealed targets, you will gain 30% increased movement speed. When a revealed enemy takes damage from you for the first time, they take an additional 40 plus 30% of your physical power. Enemies are revealed for 8 seconds, and this can trigger once every 45 seconds. So this is really good for revealing where, a potential counter gank could be coming from if you're ganking a target.
Yeah, we had a lot of interesting use cases of this when we were playing in like the play test. For example, I was playing Nemesis and I'd ult over a wall to catch someone out, and I'd reveal the whole enemy team on that side of the wall, and then I'd be able to run down whoever I wanted that I had revealed by just chasing them down and then bursting them with an additional follow-up from Arendite. So this really encourages the kind of assassin warrior playstyle of using your ultimate ability to engage and then diving further into the back line, and that extra movement speed you get for chasing targets is pretty potent.
Is it only you, the caster of that ability, that can see through the walls and such like that, or is it your team?
It's a team-wide reveal.
Wow.
So if they are within 120 units of you, they will be revealed to your entire team.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so here you can see a few things. You can see the debuff. That's the circles on those Odins. That's triggering, just from firing his ultimate, any gods nearby are going to get that debuff on them. Then you can see the post-process effects on the Hercules. That's to let you know that you are in the Arendite state, and you can run down these targets faster if you run toward them.
Right, you've got
as
that
long as you're
increased
running
movement
towards
speed.
someone,
Yes.
you're going to get a movement speed bonus as
And then
well.
the first hit does bonus damage, which you can also see he's been demonstrating here. He walks up to them and see that little extra yellow numbers.
47.
Second hits does not, only the first one. So this is a really cool ability for assassins. Jump into the back line, alt somebody, reveal the whole team, and as people start to scatter, it lets your team follow up on the cleanup, or it helps you pursue a target that's trying to flee because you'll be able to move quicker toward them and you'll know exactly where they're going.
Okay. We're 2 of these items in so
Yeah,
far.
these are
Still 2
intense.
more
These
to
are
go?
exciting.
Yeah.
2 more.
2 more to
We
go,
still have the
gentlemen.
mage one and the guardian one.
All right, here we go. Mage and Guardian only is this what this one says. It's Staff
Oh,
of
boy.
Mirrodin. Yeah,
Mirrodin.
I just wanted to make
Mirrodin.
sure I get it right. Staff of Mirrodin builds from the apprentice staff. This is going to be 2,800 gold, 10% cooldown reduction, and 100 magical power. The passive. After casting your ultimate ability, your next ability, non-ultimate ability cast, within the next 10 seconds will have no cooldown, but will only hit for 70% of its normal damage and heal for 70% of its normal healing. Can trigger once every 45 seconds. So I cast my ultimate, and then I fire my ability. The next ability I cast, I get a free cast of it, and then I can cast it again.
Yes, so that same ability that you cast will be able to cast again. You can dual cast. So if you
Double
have,
cast.
Yeah, double cast. If
Doesn't
you
have, you know, twin cast.
yeah,
Twin cast, nice.
whatever word you want to use. So for example, here
think the word
Nox,
clear cast is the
Nox
way
can
to put it.
ult and then one someone else.
Yeah, you gotta use it twice
ult
back to
and
back.
2 and 2 again.
Yes, you can
yeah?
ult and
Right?
2 and 2 again. If you're Hebo, you can ult, knock up.
Oh no, Hebo. What have you done? I'm
if-
trying to think of all the combinations.
There's,
there's-
going to be a lot of different ways you can use this item.
Some guardians can use it really effectively, like double Ymir wall. You
Wait,
block a
Gab-
path off, and then they go a different path. You block that off. Deployables will often die, so like the first one will fade and the second one will appear. So there's
Okay.
rules that you'll have to learn while playing this item. But there's a lot of interesting cases that on the surface aren't immediately apparent, but there's a wide array of applications that you can use here.
So they gave me a new mic here. Do I sound okay? This item has a lot of applications and a lot of learning experiences to go along with it.
Yeah.
If you try to use this on something like Aphrodite birds, you could do more damage, but you can't double stack ticks.
Yeah, because they
Or
refresh
can
each
you?
other.
A lot
Yeah.
of effects refresh. You'll have to learn what works well for your god.
And
So
the gods that you
I
play
can
against as
Gebel
well.
shield, or I could Gebel knock up. is what you're
Yeah,
telling
that would
me,
definitely
right?
work out.
Correct. But then you'll be investing into a completely no protections, no health, no tank
Right.
item on a Geb.
Yeah.
But if you're playing that solo or jungle Geb, which people pull out,
Or Bacchus.
Don't try and
Bacchus,
shame me for
yeah,
my
multiple
ideas and
leads.
creativity here with Geb,
I
okay?
think that this item certainly has guardian potential, certainly. But this is a really interesting item. It's kind of a theme for all of these items. They have a lot of flexible applications and a lot of different ways to use them. And you're going to have to experiment a little bit more in game to make sure that they're working the way you expect, because of the core rules of SMITE. Kind of break these items in a couple places.
So like, for example, Hera was an example that people tried to use in
Yeah.
our early tests, but Argus doesn't go on cooldown until Argus dies. And so this effect occurs after your ultimate goes on cooldown.
Gotcha.
So some characters have more innate synergy with this item where their abilities work a bit more favorably. But if you want to play Hera and then kind of use your ultimate in a really aggressive way and just have Argus die so you can get double cast, that's something that you'll have to learn to do with this item.
Double
she can-
polymorph sounds good.
have a much longer extended fight and still get that power play. It's just
Yeah.
not going to be at the same timing.
Yeah.
Play around a little bit, basically, with this as much as
Right.
possible.
And
I'm
people-
sure you guys at home will do your very best at trying to break this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It'll happen for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it for Staff of Mid. And next up, though, is Pridewin, is the last one on this list. And this is going to build out of Knight's Shield. It's going to cost 2,400 gold, and this is for all classes, by the way. 20% cooldown reduction, 45 physical protection, 45 magical protection, and after casting your ultimate ability, you gain a large shield equal to your protections for 5 seconds. When this shield breaks, either by timing out or being depleted, it explodes and deals magical damage equal to 50% of the shield's health, and slowing targets for 25% for 3 seconds. This can only trigger once every 45 seconds. So this is a catch-all for everybody. So if you do end up building tank on whatever character you're on, you will get the shield effect that is based off your protections. So for me, it's like you want to build more protections to make this useful.
Yes, so this is the focus item towards the kind of frontline tank role. It is available to all classes, and you'll know all classes essentially have 2 items they can build: Pridewin and whatever was specific to their class. And this innately works off trying to be the frontline tank. The more you build defensive, the more you play tank character and have higher base stats, that'll all influence that shield's health and ability to deal damage. And of course, shield health, it becomes more effective the more protections you've built anyway. So there's a lot of synergy towards building and optimizing this kind of passive effect.
Clumsy, can I double stack these items then? Is that what Pond's just telling me there? That I can buy 2 of these items?
You know, if you want to be an Athena and you want Pride Wind and you want Staff of Mirrodin, that sounds pretty.
I was still discussing we possibly limit these to 1 per god. Last week.
Athena double taunt just came into my head.
You ulti in, you have Pride Wind, so you're gonna have that shield around you. You taunt them towards you. The shield depletes. You explode. You slow them. You taunt them again. No.
While we're in game, can we take a look at the items real quick? Can we take a look at the tree?
We can try to. If
it does the can we? Yeah.
Yep.
There's a little look at it.
It's okay. We're a little zoomed out, but and we can only see which ones per class we are. But there you can see, fail not the bow.
Yeah.
The bow of Tristan.
Yep.
Sir Tristan said to never miss. Followed by Erendite, which is
Lancelot's sword.
I know that
which
one.
is legendary. Why?
Because it's
Lancelot had it.
sword.
You gotta have said to never miss. You gotta have a little catchphrase, Pon.
Erendite was actually one of those items that was like, it's Lancelot's sword, and that's pretty much all it was.
All right. Well,
But it's still cool.
especially sharp.
Lancelot's
He
important.
still made Marion with it. That's all you got to say every time.
And then we have the Staff of Mirrodin, which is Merlin's ancient Celtic source of power.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the god has earlier roots even than Arthurian.
Yep, and
and
it
then
focuses-
finally we have
Pride Wind, which is King Arthur's shield. So this is the shield he uses to defend Camelot. It's the shield that he uses to defend his kingdom.
It's so OP, he can't have it in the game
Correct.
from the start of the game.
He can only get
because he's already
Excalibur. He can't have 2 artifacts.
That's fair. That's fair. He had too many already. Well, that's it for the new item tree. There is still plenty of other item discussion to go on to now. And we've got another item to actually speak about straight away, which is going to be Contagion. Is the very first item that I'm going to be talking about. Is this the only other new item being introduced today?
Correct. This is the only other new item.
And it's Contagion. Here's the stats for it. You'll recognize a lot of this all of a sudden. This builds out of the silver breastplate, I should say. It costs 2,050 gold, 60 physical protection, 100 health, 250 mana, 15 MP5, and the aura, which is the most important thing of Contagion. Enemy gods within 55 units have their healing reduced by 25%. This does not stack with Pestilence, so as you can tell, this is physical Pestilence, boys and girls.
Correct.
Yes.
This is something
Finally.
people have wanted for
Finally.
a while.
For quite a bit of time.
We'll see if they actually buy it.
Why have people been asking for this, AJ? What's the main reason
The
for
main reason people ask for this is for early game solo lane countering. That's the most common reason. Of course, it has a lot of applications in other game modes when you end up against a healer stacked comp.
Yeah, if you want to play a warrior support as well, you know, that'll help out sometimes that lane.
Certain duo laners might pick this up, but we focused mostly on the solo lane application to help you counter those high sustained solo laners or guardians in solo lane. And what this will, we've actually tuned it a little bit differently than Pestilence for that reason. So you can rush it a little bit earlier, we have made this one slightly cheaper, slightly lower stats than Pestilence, but Pestilence has this, they have the same passive. So by all accounts, they are the exact same passive. You can't stack them, but you can buy one of each on 2 different gods and do more anti-healing in a larger area, but you cannot increase, so we're not increasing the cap amount of healing reduction in the game with this item.
Gotcha.
So healers out there,
This
is not actually lowering the amount of healing you can get total in the game, because it's the same as Pestilence. It's just giving more options and possibly a larger area.
The main thing to mention there then is the only real difference is that if you've got a Pestilence and a Contagion on the front line together on 2 different characters, you're only getting the effect of one and not both at the same time.
Correct.
And
It's
that's
the
also
same
for
as
you
having
guys at
2
home
Pestilence.
building this. There's no point building both of them on your character because you're only going to get the debuff from one.
Let me see. There is applications if you split up.
Yeah.
If Pon's got Pestilence, I've got Contagion, we chase off different people. Now we're still anti-healing both of them. Things like that.
Yeah,
It
they've
does
got-
not just straight up stack like that.
They've got very different stat priorities. You know, Pestilence obviously has a lot of magical protections and health, so it's going to be good for different reasons. So
Generally, don't build both on the same god.
Yes.
But let's move on then to the item trees and what we're going to be seeing changing in the item trees in this mid-season update. First thing to talk about, it looks like we've got a lot of magical items, first of all. Guys, what's been the main goal during the mid-season update with this?
We're going to go through categories in the items instead of alphabetical,
Yeah.
and you're going to see that reflected on the patch notes.
I've got rings and...
Just to make sure that that's intentional.
Right.
First, we're going to start with magical items, specifically mage ADCs.
Yes. Magical ADCs have been a bit more prevalent than they have been previously. A lot of the kind of competitive level play, Freya has been very popular, Kronos has been really popular. They've been pushing out other hunter characters, and we think a lot of that has to just deal with the core efficiency of the ring tree itself, specifically Demonic Grip and Hastened Ring.
Okay.
So you're going to see adjustments towards those items.
And let's have a quick look at those then. Demonic Grip, the cost is going to go up for this item. It was 2,150 gold. It's now going to be 2,300. So 150 gold increase there, just to try and slow that down. And then Hasten Ring as well. We've increased the cost of this item. It was 2,300 gold. This is a large jump to 2,700 gold for Hasten Ring. But there is an increase to the magical power this provides. It was 50. That's going to go up to 70. I guess part of that is because of the cost increase too.
Yes. So it's been more pivoted towards a luxury item.
Right.
Haste itself is just a very powerful effect. It breaks the core rules of Smite with regards to basic attacks. When you basic attack, you slow down, which makes you move slower, makes you more vulnerable, and haste just breaks that. And we've seen that over the course of the game's lifetime, that haste is just a very powerful effect. And so to kind of make sure that players can still have access to this, but it isn't so prevalent and easy to rush, we're moving the cost up, but also making the stats more towards that luxury tier of item. So when you do want to build into it, you can, but you can't, for example, Freya rush it and box really efficiently in lane super early on. You have to invest a lot more gold towards it.
And the mages are still being looked at in terms of the hunter position of being able to be playing that dual lane AJ going forward.
Of course, we just want strong variance, right? We want strong differentiation. We want mages and hunters to both be viable. It looks like right now, mage ADCs, especially in the competitive meta, as we've referenced to, are dominating. Olarun, also new mage ADC added to the game recently. He's more balanced than Kronos and Freya.
He won't. Yeah, he probably doesn't also use Hasten Ring that effectively, so that doesn't affect him. The Demonic Grip will definitely be more useful.
So we're gonna keep an eye out on mage ADCs going forward. These were the most direct, clear changes we saw. Demonic Grip really just needs to be balanced to other early penetration items, and Haste just needs to be tuned towards a luxury item. We have a couple other ideas and directions. We have some God balance that's going to adjust that, so we'll be keeping a close eye on this. And also, as we're going to get to later today, we're also going to be buffing a few hunter items.
Okay, well, let's move on with a couple of magical items first of all. We've got a couple for the mid lane a little bit more so. Well, could flex a few places. Doomorb is on the list here. Doomorb with Doomorb, and it's going to see a reduced magical power per stack from 6 to 4, but an increased base magical power increase from 135 to 145. This is quite a potent item just in terms of magical power now then with what we're seeing out of this.
Yeah, it's one
but
of the
stacks
highest
are going down.
for magical power, I think, outside of like Rod of Tahuti. It's, it's borderline there. It's one of the most expensive mage items as well. We wanted to move a little bit from the stacking component because those stacks, they're temporary with the movement speed. You only get them from time to time when you're killing camps or you're assisting with god kills or getting god kills yourself. But moving a little bit to the base allows you to actually just get a little bit more power up front from the item. We've done a lot of shifting with Doomorb, with its price being changed from 3,200 to 3,000. And there's a lot of people kind of comparing it to Rod of Tahuti, comparing it to Shaman's Ring, and we want to bring it a little bit more in line. But we also know that the movement speed it provides is a really strong stat by itself. So we want to just do it, a little bit by bit to make sure it's not going to be over the top.
Okay, and that's it for Doomorb, but we move on then to Spear of Desolation next up, which is the passive has been changed from 1 second to 2 seconds. I've got down here. So it was only effective for 1 second, but it's now going to be 2 is the only real difference. It just makes it a little bit easier to use.
Yeah, it just was. It's a pretty strong item in regards to like the pen the cooldown provides, but there's other pen options that are kind of outshining it. There's other cooldown options that can outshine it, and so we just want to move it a bit more in the direction of being more viable, especially for those characters with very low cooldown abilities. When they get a kill, they can just immediately refresh it and use it very quickly. This item will be a stronger pickup for them.
Spirit Magus was almost causing some problems earlier this year, where people were considering mage is not even viable unless they worked really well with Spear of Magus.
Right.
So we wanted to add just a little bit back to the non-Spear of Magus mages. This is going to help them.
Okay, we'll see how that works out with Spirit of Desolation. Next up on the list is Ethereal Staff here. Decreased the cost of this item. It was 2,600 gold. It's now going to be 2,500 gold. But we've also increased the max health stolen. It was 5% to 6%, so it's up 1% and down 100 gold. Just a small touch here, gents.
I'm still convinced this item is sleeper OP.
Yeah, we see this picked a few times.
Crazy good, but we'll see. We're of course a common theme through these mid-season patches. We're targeting some of the least purchased items in the entire game.
Sure. And I think sometimes when we talk about sleeper items, most of the times here, what happens is like it's just hard to fit them in build sometimes, and that's what you're trying to aim for here.
And a few of these that we're adjusting today, they're still going to be hard to fit in build, but some of the trade-offs are there. People just have a hard time giving up the things they're used to.
Yeah, sure.
It's a very niche item as well, because you usually see it on kind of the tanky bruiser mages as well. You know, the Zhang Kueis, the Jormungandrs. We saw it in Athena and Geb solo before playing the SPL. So it's kind of already got a really unique place in the meta that we think just bringing a little bit more attention to it, but we don't want to drive it overboard because we don't want it to be like Warlock staff back in the beginning where everyone got this and it just felt really frustrating. So just a little few tweaks.
That's fair. Okay, well that's it for major items for the time being. But now we're on to what looks more like mobility more than anything else here. We've already had a little look at the Hasten Ring, and that's going to be taken a nerf. Well, Hasten Katana is also going to get changed as well this patch. That's going to have a cost increase as well. It's up from 2,300 gold. It's now going to cost you 2,500 gold going forward for that. It's just the same pattern here, Pon. Mobility is OP.
It's a very similar kind of state of situation with Hasten Ring. Hasten Katana, the haste effect is just very potent. We've also seen the rise of those in-hand assassins. Arachne, I think nobody really doubts anymore that Arachne is really strong, and she's not even the best case for Hasten Katana. Bakasura, people know, is really, really potent, especially in like the ring scene. Kali is very potent. And so we just want to make sure that when people rush these kind of items, there's a bit of that trade-off between, I could have maybe gone Atalanta's Bow to get the more movement speed, or I could have started rushing my chins a bit earlier. If that gold is going instead to our Hasten Katana, it kind of just makes it so that when they rush this and get it online, they aren't so overbearing for the second it comes online.
That's fair.
All basic attack assassins are at the top of the performance charts right now. We were just going over Kali as a sleeper pick.
Yeah.
Arachne is actually statistically the strongest god in the game still, if you don't believe it's true. So this is a little nerf to them as a whole. Should help balance out assassins in general, bring up some more of those non-basic attack, more ability-focused assassins and their viability as well.
Okay, next up then is Talaria boots as we stay in the mobility section. Decreased physical power of Talaria boots. It's going to go down. It was 20. It's down to 15 physical power now. Just for Talaria boots, not for the others?
This is all about trade-offs.
Okay.
We know that there's been a lot of rumblings about movement speed. Some of the rumblings of these builds are a little more meme than they are serious. Talaria's, though, is becoming the most popular choice for junglers. And it's because there's no trade-off. They're getting virtually the same amount of power, but way more movement speed. That's very strong. So we're bringing that power down to help differentiate them more from Warrior Tabi.
Gotcha.
However, we don't see this problem in the magical side at all. Travelers are still relatively unpopular. So we're going to leave Travelers at the current state for now.
Okay.
But we might need to look into that item in a future case.
All right. That's good to know the difference between the two.
The parallels, although they're similar trees, they don't need to follow this exact same logic because the classes they're applied on have such different applications.
Well, sticking with the boot section
Until
as well.
Pon comes out with Jungle Athena on Traveler's boots and wipes the whole playtest.
I have done a Jungle Athena.
He does it all the time.
And what, Pride Win? And
He'll do it to you.
And Merlin,
He'll get you.
Okay, well, moving on with the more mobility here. Ninja Tabi going to get a bit of love this patch as well. Increased attack speed from Ninja Tabi. It was 20% attack speed. It's now going to be 25%. That's a potent 5% there, John.
Now, this is shifting into our whole set of hunter items.
Right.
So this is an important category for this mid-season patch. I think based on our feedback, we feel like hunters are probably the class that people are feeling the least satisfied with right now. Yeah, they're feeling a hunter. I mean, with Mage ADCs taking over, just a few hunters getting moved into mid lane. A lot of the ways the conquest meta has been shifting, people are feeling hunters are not that impactful. We're seeing in live games the amount of people selecting the role is dropping. So what we're doing here is you're going to see a few buffs to unpopular hunter items as normal. We always want to build diversity, but we're also going to be buffing a few staple hunter items, core hunter items. And that is intentional. That is to buff the class as a whole. It might look a little strange because it's not something we normally do, but we have the metrics and the feedback that support this pretty strongly right now. And we think it's going to have a really strong benefit to the whole class. It's going to bring more hunters into the viability section. It's going to give people more flexibility, and it's going to make people feel better about playing that role.
Well, we mentioned Ninja Tabi there. I want to move on to Chins as well, because Chins is the next one on this list, and they kind of fall in the same vein for me. Chin size is going to have the attack speed increase of this item as well from 15% to 20% as well. So both Ninja Tabi and Chins getting attack speed increases. What's the reason for the attack speed increases?
This goes in line with Age's messaging, where Chins is a pretty popular and core component for a lot of hunters. It's their answer towards a lot of the kind of tanky front lines that can go and threaten them. And we want to make sure that when they're in that situation, they feel strong, they feel impactful. If right now, even with these items, even though they are popularly purchased, they aren't feeling that impact, it means just that as a whole, the class is a bit undertuned, feels a little bit underwhelming. So those core things being brought up should just made the class feel smoother overall. And then when they want to go target their build more towards specific item trees or specific synergies, then we can look at like different items and see about buffing those individual cases, or if those stat lines are overall strong. But making sure the core is intact and strong is important for this patch.
There's a little bit of this attack speed on both of these items.
Yeah.
For Ninja Tabby, what it's going to do is it's going to buff the hunters that already get Ninja Tabby, right? And it's also going to take a few hunters that are right on the line and can't really decide between Warrior and Ninja Tabby. It's going to give them a better choice between the two. A couple hunters will probably stay Warrior Tabby forever. That's the most popular item in the game, by the way. So people will stay just building that power for sure. But there's more options here, and when you get that natural attack speed a little easier through your core items, it gives you a little more flexibility in your builds to branch out into crit or some additional penetration. And we're going to go into crit next.
Segue. Look at him. It's also
Nice.
like it is always going on. Wind Demon is the next one on the list here. And that's going to see a cost decrease. It was 2,600 gold. It's now going to be 2,500 gold. So 100 gold off that item. Just to make it more attractive, that is it, guys?
A little easier to fit in builds, just to take the overall crit cost and lower it down a little bit, as well as to give this item a little bit more of a chance with a couple of the other options.
Hunters have a lot of luxury items with some pretty heavy costs, but Wind Demon and Poison Star, they weren't meant to be the ones that are right up there, so a little bit of cost decrease I think will help it smooth out that power curve.
And the next item on this list as well is going to be Iqval. It's going to have a bit of a change in terms of cost again. The cost was 2,600 gold. That's going to go down to 2,450 gold. So 150 gold off the top end of that item too. Iqval did go through a couple of iteration changes too, right? So we're just trying to work out the point of cost for that.
When we first released it, we had its price set a little bit high, so we wanted to go this patch, same kind of
When we
messaging with
first
Wind Demon.
re-released the
Re-
Tier
Right,
3
re-released its new version of
Iqval,
Iqval.
there was some initial reactions that people thought it was too strong, so we nerfed it really quickly, or even during PTS.
Almost
Yeah, I think it was
preemptively,
during
yeah,
PTS.
exactly.
During PTS, and then nobody bought it. So
There's been very niche
That's
applications,
what
but it was
PTS does,
very,
AJ. Do you not
very
realize?
low.
So here we are, buffing it again.
Yeah.
But this is a unique passive. This gives the hunters, like we said, they'll be able to get a little bit more natural attack speed, so they'll have a little more flexibility in their build to pick up a new passive.
Yeah, and
Maybe
also
Silver Branch will be getting really good with a little bit bonus attack speed in
it
here.
also
Keep
serves
an eye
as
out
a-
on that. If you're concerned about overcapping attack speed in your build, we do
Yep.
have you covered.
Yep. And this also serves as a nice counter for other characters with high attack speed.
yeah,
which
it
is just a
helps
nice
against the
purpose.
ADC mages too, so it's kind of another counterpoint there. They're building their rings, and Iqval's always been a good choice to counter those ones. So a little bit of cost decrease will help that too.
Well, next up on the list is going to be Jade Emperor's Crown. And that's
Tank item time.
Time onto tank items.
Oh, we moved
I
on.
wasn't sure where this goes because it just like read them through them. So Jade Emperor's Crown is next on the list. Reduced cost from 2,150 gold to 2,100, so 50 gold off. And also increased health from 100 to 150. So just a small little touch here.
Little tweak.
There's a couple of these items coming up for sure
This
that
item
they are really good.
It's gone through some metas where it's historically really popular or not. Really, we have a lot of different aggressive defensive options for Guardians. You've got Voidstone and Jade Emperors. You've got Heartward and Sov. We're trying to keep those always at that decision point where you really feel like they all could be viable just kind of based on your personal preference or what your team comp needs or who on the enemy team is carrying the most. So this is that type of item. We're going to look at a couple of those here as we go through this section to make sure that this trade-off feels good and feels like Guardians have meaningful choices and aren't just pushed into the same aura Heartward soft build every game.
Well, here's a little look at some of those as well. Runic Shield is the next one up. That's going to have a 50 health increase of that from 150 to 200. And then after that, we've also got Gauntlet of Thebes on here too. Decreased cost from 2,400 to 2,350, so 50 gold less. And increase the base health of this from 275 to 300. Very small touches there, but definitely the supports will like that. Bulwark of Hope, that's also going to see a cost reduction from 2,400 to 2,300. 100 gold reduction there. And increased health from 200 to 250, so 50 health up on that too. Talisman of Energy, the next one on this list, is passive duration increase from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. I guess that's just to make it a little bit more, available
a little
to
bit more
use often.
flexible when you're actually using that passive.
Consistency.
And last but not least in the item section is going to be the Relic Dagger. It's going to see an increased relic cooldown reduction. Ooh, really?
Yeah,
From
this is a
30
spicy
seconds to 40 seconds, so an extra 10-second reduction. Surprised by that, because I thought we saw quite a bit of Relic Dagger so far this year.
We're starting to see a little bit of it in SPL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nowhere else.
Right.
No,
Nowhere else.
I definitely get that context.
No one else is buying it. The community always lags a month or so behind the SPL. If they keep doing it in SPL, people will start eventually picking it up. But
Eventually.
it's like I said before, it's about the meaningful choices. If you opt into this interesting, you got to buy different relics, you got to buy these teamfight relics, you got to be using them on cooldown, to make the most out of this item. We wanted to make sure this passive was effective in this really cool kind of combo strategy that it brings up.
So across that patch then, I mean, just for the item section, we've seen, what, 4 new items, is it? Or 5?
5 new items.
Five
The
new
Thor in
items
one tree.
added.
You got
And
5 new
Contagion.
items. You got Mage ADC nerfs. You got Hunter buffs, Guardian buffs, and you've got a lot of unpopular item buffs.
So mainly just a catch-all for all those. But now we move on to the better section, or the more detailed section this patch, I would say, or this update, I should say, is the God section. Guys, what was the main focal point of the Gods in the mid-season patch for you guys?
Mid-season, we're always looking for meta shifts, and we're looking to solve problems. I believe the itemization changes is where we're going to get most of our meta shifts from. Of course, the God balance is impactful, but God balance still impacts one God, and then there's kind of a chain of events. Items impact everyone. They have very far-reaching. So for Gods, we're looking to solve problems. So you're going to see some meta nerfs here. You're going to see some top ban, top pick nerfs. You're going to see a few Gods that are extremely unpopular and have had some, I don't know, maybe some clunkiness or feeling a little like they're missing the love, as Hinduman mentioned earlier. We're going to be looking at a few of those, and we'll be looking at a couple of buffs in between that have different direct messaging, different problems being solved.
Okay.
Always striving towards the goal of making as many gods in the game feel good to play and feel viable.
Now, I do think they're in alphabetical order from a
These
just a
ones are.
quick
Yes,
scan
for
through.
gods,
So
we are not in categories. We're going the old school.
if you don't hear your God at his first letter of his name, then he's probably not getting changed this patch.
Definitely pay attention because there's some spicy stuff intertwined between all of the other balance for
And we'll
sure.
start off with Amusen Carb is the first one. AMC. He's going to see a couple of changes here. Bees, we're going to be decreasing the base damage of bees from 9 to 5. What a way to make
Per
a
tick.
living.
Yeah, that's per tick.
Per tick.
So, per tick, sorry.
Which is pretty big.
I just
Yeah.
got excited by 9 to 5 and it got stuck.
9
9 to 5,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then
our fault. We should put the per tick there.
And then Swarm as well, decreased base damage from 60 to 280 will now be 60 to 260, so a top-end small change there. We've also decreased the physical power scaling from 80% to 70%. So small touches to AMC. He has been quite potent lately.
Yeah, out of the hunters we talked about, while
this
there's
is the meta.
a lot of mage ADCs, AMC has been, really prevalent in both the duo lane as well as the mid lane. He's just one that hasn't fallen off at all. And a lot of that comes down to his early game pressure and his boxing potential. Even though he doesn't actually have movement ability and Hive kind of helps him throughout, he still does really well at almost all points in the game. So here we're hitting his early game with bees and we're hitting his late game with the swarm change.
Okay. We'll see how that works out for AMC. Next on this list is Anher. Some interesting changes for Anher here. First of all, Shifting Sands. We're going to increase the damage buff from 4 to 20%. Will now be 8 to 20%. So definitely an early game buff for Shifting Sands. Not only that, though, Impale, we've reduced the pre-fire time. It was 0.2. It's now going to be 0.17. So a 0.03 difference. Yes, I can do math sometimes.
small.
Which will match his animation, is what it says here.
Yeah.
Is that just makes it feel a little bit better?
When he threw, he'd like throw, and then a spear would appear in front of him and go. Now it feels more like as he's throwing, at the point where he'd let go of the spear appears and goes.
a
It's very minor.
slight
Just a
adjustment.
feel.
But
So you'll
it's
Yeah.
definitely feel it if you're an on-herb main.
It's a visual clarity.
And speaking of feels as well, looks like Desert Fury, we've added targeter effects while channeling this ability. Does that make it a little bit better for firing that Desert Fury off and feel like he's going to
Yeah,
hit?
there's a lot of different shots and some pretty different timings between them. It's a little bit delayed. So now actually being able to see which direction you're going to be facing with that ability, it will help out a little bit.
A lot of quality of life, but a bit of a buff to that Shifting Sands. Why the buff to the Shifting Sands?
It's one of those things that we noticed when we did the Aphrodite change, where it was 4 to 20% damage increase to your link target. It's one of those things where at the early stage of the game, you already aren't doing that much damage, and so 4% increase on already not that much damage is just, you don't really feel it. Having access to a little bit of a higher percentage earlier on helps you feel that part of the ability earlier, so you know that that's a thing that you need to continue working towards and using as the game progresses.
Gotcha. It still gets to the same point late game as well, though, in terms of the same 20%.
And we also added 5 units of range to that ability.
Yes.
That's
Oh, I
correct,
missed that.
right?
Yeah, I
yeah,
apologize.
But that is
5 extra range? That's pretty good.
a pretty impactful change as well.
It
That'll
is.
let you zone out
Sorry.
people a little further to help you catch people.
That's more important.
It works really well with impale combos because it gives you a little bit more space to work with.
Yeah.
So on her getting a combination of actual buffs and quality of life adjustments.
All right, good changes for Anher. Moving on to the next A-God, and it's also another hunter, Apollo, on the list here. First up is Audacity. Each damaging ability now adds 2 stacks of Audacity for each enemy god hit. The moves still adds 1 stack of Audacity for hitting enemy minions.
Right.
Is what it says here. So if you hit a god, you're going to get 2 stacks off that as well. So dashing in, you could potentially get your Audacity passive up a little bit
Or
quicker.
your one or your ultimate. Each.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you
Yeah,
land all
so-
hits on your ultimate, you're going to be getting your Audacity passive almost instantly.
Really?
When we talked
Obviously
about
it's in
Apollo
game
a
as
little
well.
bit,
There you go.
exactly. We're going to see it here. And one of the biggest things we talked about for Apollo is that his passive, while it's fun, it's hard to always play around it, right? You get it
Sure.
up and then you use it. If you're an experienced player, you'll dash through the minion wave to try and get a little bit faster. But by adding Audacity, increasing mechanics to all of his abilities, his damaging abilities, which I think is important,
Yeah.
because that means your Mez is not going to be actually getting you any Audacity stacks. It means that he'll be getting access to that increased attack speed more often.
So this feels like if for the casual player, the player that's trying to get to grips with Apollo, it's going to be a little bit more effective to play him. But at the same time, for the high-end Apollo
You're gonna be
player,
able to make use
they're
of
going to
that,
feel a potent
for
buff
sure.
here and be able to play around this.
It helps abilities feel a bit more impactful. Often, especially late game hunters, where your auto attacks feels like the most important thing that you're going to be doing.
Sure.
Casting an ability often takes time away from that.
Yeah.
And now this actually gives you an incentive. If you're in the middle of a team fight, your passives just dropped, you have your 1. It is worth you casting your 1 again, trying to hit as many gods as you can to get your passive back up as quick as you can.
Now, the other thing about Apollo as well is we're going to be buffing the moves, his third ability. They increase the duration of the buff and debuff from this effect. It was 2 seconds. It's now going to go up to 3 seconds here, and that's just going to be an additional quality of life thing. Here.
Yourself and allies will now be moving faster an extra second, and enemies
And
hit will be
minions.
going slower for an extra
This
second.
helps his kit flow so much better. These gameplay demos of him alting down and just going from 0 to full stacks of
Getting
his
stacks
passive,
off it.
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Very, very useful.
This is
So
going to make the god feel way more consistent, give you a lot more control, and if you're hitting your abilities and paying attention to that passive, you're going to be doing a lot more damage with Apollo.
Apollo players unite. Thanks for that one, Caps in game. We'll move on then to Ares, and Ares is going to get a buff this patch as well. I'm not ready yet. Searing Flames. This ability now deals 5% max health per tick to non-boss minions. Only at all ranks. Sorry.
Only.
I was,
That's
it
a
was,
weird-
the,
that's
it was
my
the
fault.
way that it's
Yeah,
ranked.
we should have written that
It
down.
still deals 1, 1, 2, 2, 3% to gods as you rank this up, but it's 5% max health to anything in the jungle, so it helps with clear, right?
Jungle, minions, and
lane
lane.
minions too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
is
Just not fire giants and large bosses, right?
it's
That's what I was
Because
thinking
it for
about.
5% would be
Yeah.
a little bit much.
So this ability does base damage and percent health. We're just buffing the percent health to minions only.
Okay.
So this is a direct buff to Conquest Ares.
Clearing lane Ares.
Correct.
Doing
Yes.
lane and just
And-
going off to do back camps and stuff. I found that pretty difficult myself when I was
That
playing him.
is
trust me.
really exciting to
You
me.
don't do back caps, that's what happens.
I'm a big fan of Ares, but he is really difficult to play in Conquest because of this poor clear. So we did this a little bit with his chains, and that helped him a little bit, but we still have not seen much Ares in Conquest. Very, very little actually. So we're pushing that envelope just a little further. It's a very exciting change.
After Ares, then we'll move straight on to Chak. Yes, that's a C for you guys at home playing along. Torrent decreased cooldown from 15 seconds to 13 seconds, so that'll be up a little bit more often. And Stormcall, the knockback from this effect, now knocks enemies players straight up instead of away. That's a big change.
Big change.
Because before it was kind of used as a escape
Yeah,
situation,
it's
but
technically a
now
knockup, but a knockup that preserves momentum. Now it's going to be a knock straight up, so you're always going to be staying in the same place after that ultimate.
I think everyone kind of agrees that Chalk is like solidly okay. It has been for a long time and never really been fantastic. And we've been trying to add ways to make him a desirable pick. And one problem is that his ultimate is strong, but it always tends to knock people away. It actually tends to save enemies. They're all just fleeing in different directions. He doesn't get to do this like good engagement play with his team. Now that they're knocked straight up, that's going to set up his team way better. So they're going to get knocked straight up, and then
And
they're still going to
silenced?
stay
They're still
silenced.
silenced, yeah.
And it does a good bit of damage. So this is going to help Chalk's late game team fight, which is normally when he really drops off. Like he's a pretty strong laner. And unless he shows up really fed, his late game is kind of underwhelming. So this is going to really help his late game team fight and help make Chalk a core asset in your Conquest team comps.
And the other thing we mentioned there real quick as well was Torrent cooldown down 2 seconds, so you can spin a little bit quicker and maybe get yourself some extra damage protections and escapability.
Right.
Erlang Shen is the next one on the list, and that's going to be Spot Weakness. It looks like a bit of a nerf for the boy Erlang, and I think he needed it, to be honest. Decreased base damage from 25 to 85 will now be 15 to 75. That's actually quite heavy, boys. How come so heavy?
Put this in the the meta nerf category.
Okay.
Erlang Shen, top pick, top ban, top win, across the board right now. This god is doing really well. And one of his issues is that he's a little too good at everything.
Yeah, his ability to tank, his ability to deal damage is just really high. He doesn't have to sacrifice much to deal that damage, and part of that is due to spot weaknesses based damage.
Gotcha.
Especially at early ranks in the jungle, you can gank really aggressively. You can build more defensive, and it's really hard for anyone to counter gank you. And it's really hard for anyone to push Erlang Shen off them if he's on them. And so this will make Erlang Shen players have to determine a little bit more: do I want to focus on tankiness and sacrifice some damage, or do I really want to commit to that damage build?
Okay, well, that's it for Erlang Shen. We'll move on then to Fafnir. Next got on this list, and it looks like a bit of love for the boy Fafnir here, I think.
It's a shift.
It's a shift.
It's a shift, sorry. I've not read these, so I'm just like going through them like, okay. Curse Strength, increased width of this ability. That's the hammer, by the way. Increased the width of this ability from 6 units to 7, so it should be a little bit easier
Just
to
a
hit
bit.
this. And clear creeps with 2. And Coerce, decreased attack speed buff. It was 15 to 35, will now be 10% to 30%. And decreased bonus damage from 5 to 25% will now be 4 to 20%. So it is a shift, and it's like he loses a bit of his attack speed and power buff that he's getting from Coerce, but gets to hit his hammer a little bit more often.
Exactly.
Yeah?
This god is popular in SPL and nowhere else. And it's because the SPL players are good at using that Coerce. We're trying to help even him out a little bit more, trying to give him more widespread application to more players. So we want to make Curse Strength just a little bit more consistent. It is a slight change, but it'll matter. It will help.
Yeah.
It'll help him clear. It'll help him secure.
It also affects both forms, of course. So they're now going to be the exact
dragon
same
and
way.
the
Right,
dwarf.
so Dragon Form will also have a bit
It'll
of
help him
hitbox.
lock down enemies so his teammates can secure those kills.
Okay.
But Coerce is just an extremely potent team
Yes.
effect.
Yes.
So we want to be careful buffing Fafnir because even though he's really, really struggling in casuals, we've never been able to buff because the SPL players are so good with him. He's a very high skill cap character.
Understand, yeah.
So we're just trying to bring down that SPL focus just a little bit.
Yeah. And you may
Next
see
up.
some mixed messaging on the bonus damage because we just did the change to on her.
Yeah.
Where this one is also the 4 to 20.
Yeah.
This one's a bit different just because that he gets attack speed buff, so you already feel the ability effect, and it's also team wide in the dragon form.
You're
and
just-
that
right, you're
team wide
hitting
effect.
You're
multiple
just getting
people.
ahead of the flare boots in the world.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
now. I know
Honestly.
what Pompon's doing. Always
So
thinking.
it's a bit different of a situation. Context matters.
Freya, next on the list, and Freya's definitely been a talked about god for the last billion years since release. So we'll see what we're doing to her this week, and this week is going to be Aurora Blade. Decreased range basic damage from 16 to 60 is now going to be 1 to 40, and increased ranged scaling from 10% to 15%. Break it down real quick.
Early game, that base power makes her incredibly efficient, especially when she gets a single attack speed online.
Yep.
Hastened Ring was that often use case, and it just made her very, very difficult to box. Even though she does clear the wave really aggressively, when you did try and actually box her, she also won the box trade. This will make her much more fair to fight against, and then that extra scaling makes her more towards the late game. I believe late game, when you have about 600 power, you hit about 15 to 20 harder. So that's kind of like the level of change that you're going to see between Aurora Blades early game versus late game.
So weaker, early,
This
stronger,
is a
late.
15
potentially.
damage per shot
Yes.
nerf
Right.
in the early game. It's going to slow down her early game. That's what had been her major problem here. We know we've been messing with Freya for a really long time. We're feeling really good about how she's going to feel
Yes.
after this change.
I mean, this couple with Demonic Grip and Hastened Ring changes for sure.
Yeah, should definitely bring her in line a little bit more. Maybe not be as frustrating for you all at home. Next got on the list is Isis. Now, Isis has got a lot of changes here. What's the goals with Isis in this patch, first of all?
Isis is getting widespread adjustments across her kit. This is one of those heavy balance adjustments where we're not necessarily reworking any abilities, but a lot of them being touched.
Okay.
We're trying to give Isis, we're trying to target her individual abilities that feel underwhelming and give them clear identities and strengths, as well as just buff the goddess in ways that she needs.
Let's see what they've done then. Funeral Rites, first of all. The passive increased range of this. It was 30 units. It's going to be 40 units, so a little bit wider there. Spirit Ball. You can now refire Spirit Ball. This ability at any point after firing it. This includes while under the effect of crowd control and also whilst dead. I really like that, guys. It seems a little bit OP in one sense, but at the same time, I can understand it because it's very frustrating that you couldn't necessarily cancel it early to get that stun or the damage.
It also was a little bit confusing because her ultimate had these rules already
Yeah.
in place. So while you're dead or you're crowd controlled, you could already cast Circle of Protections. Spirit Ball was kind of the one that you always wanted to be able to do the same thing. If you get stunned by an assassin jumping on you and you've just fired your Spirit Ball, you really want to be able to pop that again. Also, coupled with this change, we remove the post fire from 0.1 to 0. This doesn't change anything with the animations, but will help a lot when you're trying to pop that spirit ball and
instant
refire
ones?
it immediately and quickly.
Yeah, they're always the
helps a
ones
lot.
that sometimes like it pings slightly off or something like that. It can always cause you a problem.
This is gonna make that feel better.
Cool, that's great. Spirit Ball, there's still more for Isis as well. Dispel Magic. Dispel Magic no longer provides a boost to magical protection. It instead provides a shield to Isis and nearby allies. The shield health will be 90 to 250 plus 40% increased potency per additional target hit, and this caps at 80% potency, 3 gods hit. So basically a shield for you and your teammates around you once you use Dispel Magic
Or the
instead of
target.
protections.
So it's around you or the target. It follows Baron Samdi's rules with the heal. So that way, if people are all diving on one person and
Yeah.
you're far away, you're trying to keep that range, you can Dispel Magic that target. They all get the shield around you. Or if you just have teammates next to you, they'll also get that
So
shield.
Baron rules, basically,
Yes.
like you just said. Okay. That's it for Dispel Magic, but still, we move on to Circle of Protection next. Increase the base healing of Circle of Protection from 80 to 160 is now going to be 110 to 190, and also increase the mitigations obtained from 15 to 20% is now going to be 25% at all rank. 25% mitigations? That's great.
We had a lot of people telling us this ability felt useless. It was either a close range skill shot that you immediately detonated just to finish someone off, or something that everyone just got out of. So what we wanted to do was actually give it more applications to drop this in a siege scenario or a jungle boss scenario, and that mitigations is going to be very intense. It's going to help her a lot. It's going to give her a key, distinct role of pick Isis when we want to really secure these objectives.
Really excited to see how Isis plays out now. Because so quite a few changes there overall. Passive range increase, Spirit Ball usability a lot better and a lot easier to potentially fire and connect. Dispel Magic. I think that was a change to Dispel Magic though, because like I feel like it's a nerf to it, but then we've buffed the ult at the same time. But it's better
It's a
to
shift.
read,
Well,
right?
we took away protections
Yeah.
and added shield, so it is a shift technically,
okay.
not a straight buff.
Yeah, in situations where like assassins gank you, it's going to always be a buff because it was only magical protections you're getting. But against other mages, especially also if you're boosting like your teammates that had a lot of magical protection already, that 30% boosted it even more. So that definitely is a shift. But in a lot of applications, it will help Isis.
And the rules for Dispel Magic, she would give the shield of the aura to the people in her funeral rites, but
Yeah.
now because that AoE is larger, you're going to be giving it to people a little bit further away than before.
Interesting. That's good to see. All right. I think we'll see a bit more Isis. Someone I'm sick of seeing, Merlin, is on the list here. Let's see what's happening to Merlin this week. He's joining the likes of Freya. Eclipse, decreased magical power scaling of the initial hit from 60% to 55%. Decrease the magical power scaling of the tick damage from 10% to 8%. Blizzard increased the time to deploy of this ability from 0.5 to 0.7, and Elemental Mastery increased the cooldown of this ability. This is the ultimate switch stance, by the way, Elemental Mastery. Increased the cooldown of this. It was 28 scaling down to 20. It's now going to be 32 scaling down to 20 at the same end. Blizzard is the one that I'm interested in there, Clumsy.
Yeah, so each one has its targeted changes. Eclipse was one of the abilities that outside of the fire stance, which we nerfed last time, was doing a lot of damage. The AoE is pretty wide, so nerfing the damage on both the initial hit and the tick damage means that it doesn't feel as unfair when you're getting hit by it. Blizzard's one where it's always been a frustration point. A lot of people say, oh, the slow and the damage is a little bit too high, but when you look at it in a vacuum, it's, we've nerfed Frostbolt a lot of times. That's actually what was contributing to the damage.
Sure.
But the time to deploy of Blizzard was actually the fastest deploy time of any of those in the game. So it's faster than even Anubis. Now,
Really?
we've actually gone ahead and changed that and increased it by 0.2 seconds, which is going to be matching Anubis' Grasping Hands. It's no longer the fastest deployable in the game. And that should make it feel a lot less frustrating. We're also a little bit worried that, that Merlin mains or people who played him a lot might feel this change really viscerally.
Yeah.
They might really, see that it's not hitting those people that they want to be hitting as often. But I think that, it's definitely an important change that'll feel less frustrating and one that people get used to.
This is an impactful change. I know a lot of these small numbers, I might say this is tiny or whatever. 0.2 seconds on a warm-up, that's enough time to dodge. That you're going to need to aim this ability differently. We've seen the stats in the feedback on Merlin. He needs some more intense changes. We intend to deliver them right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
Also, last thing on the elemental mastery
Yeah,
change
yeah.
is actually going to be a pretty big one, because being able to switch stance, I think mostly this will affect conquest, and especially at the high level where people were using the different stances, to clear back camps and mid waves and go back and switch constantly for using new abilities. By having less time to do that, that means you're going to be less reactive to every time someone tries to gank you, or every time another wave comes up and you're stuck now in fire stance when you actually didn't want to be. But it's going to be scaling down to the same amount, because we didn't want that to be a consistent feeling of frustration for the Merlin player himself. So maybe now cooldown will be a little bit more important for Merlin,
Just
or
more
really
early
just
game
like
decision
getting through
making,
that.
right?
Exactly.
That's what you're kind of aiming for here.
And make him a harder character to play.
That's fair. I mean, he's pretty tricky anyway with so many different stances. He just had too much damage. Merlin, out of the way. Nemesis next on the list. And Nemesis is about Retribution here. Increase the damage reflect of Retribution from 30 to 50% of damage received is now going to be 50% at all ranks. So 50% of all the damage you take is going to get reflected back.
So a similar buff to what we mentioned before. It was weird double scaling percentages in inconsistent ways. So we're just making that ability still going to scale heavily throughout the game, because it's a percentage based ability, and because the rank of the shield increases, things like that.
I was going to say, but that's not all, because we're also going to be increasing the healing of this Retribution shield as well. It did scale up to 100%, but now it's going to be 100% at all ranks. So 50% of all the damage I take while my Retribution shield is up, I'm going to heal for that much amount.
And this is 100% limited by the size of the shield.
Sure.
Yes,
which
which is already
already
scales up.
increases per rank, so there was no reason to do this weird. It was really weird math.
Makes
so
sense.
Nemesis is just going to be a lot more consistent through the early game.
Next up then is Naja on the list, and it's the Universal Ring Toss. The Universe Ring Toss?
Universe ring toss.
Yes.
Is it
That
Universe? I thought it was
I
Universal.
believe they're called the Universe rings out of his lore.
right.
But I don't know
also-
why.
I just thought
That's what they're called.
Universe Ring Toss then increased damage reduction of subsequent hits on the same target from 25% to 35%. We've also decreased the slow from 25% to 12.5%. This effect can now stack up to 2 times. So if you get hit by 2 ring bounties now, that's what that's telling me, that then you're going to still get the same slow.
Correct.
And
Okay.
so you're going to get less slowed if you get hit by only 1 ring bounce. You're going to take less damage if you get hit by multiple ring bounces. This god is really good at all-inning and killing someone. That's what his role as an assassin is. He's still getting played in these weird flex spots as a support, which is kind of fun. We like flex, but it's frustrating and overbearing with this slow and heavily slowing and damaging ability on assassin. So tuning this more towards an assassin style numbers for this type of effect.
I think that's fair. You get more slow, but you do less damage. But if you hit once, you're going to get a smaller slow, but more damage.
Yep.
Okay. That's it for Naja. The next on the list is someone that we're going to have to talk a little bit more about.
Yes.
And the guys in the
It's
set
about
already
time.
reposition
I'm just-
themselves.
Yeah.
Nike. Nike.
Oh,
This
wow.
god, since creation, has been one of the most OP gods in the game, and no one talks about it, AJ,
Marcus, where
and
are
no
you?
one plays her.
It's crazy. It is interesting. Normally, Smite players, when something's OP, they will play it.
Yes, they will.
They don't care what it takes. They will play it if they learn it's OP. Nike is not that case. Nike has been putting up the best win rates in the game forever.
Since
but
she's
people
come
do
out,
not play
yeah.
it. We know. We've always had an idea. We've been looking for ways to adjust her without more heavily, but it's because of the passive. Her passive numbers give her team an insane amount of damage. It might not look like much, and these numbers you're about to see that we're nerfing are going to look like nothing.
Right.
But when you add those small amounts of percents, you multiply that by every player, by every hit, by every second the game goes longer. Her passive contributes a ton to a fight, and the problem is you don't feel that as a Nike player. So what we're trying to do is nerf that passive very heavily and then buff the rest of her kit, as well as rework and plan of action to make her kit feel impactful.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through the passive real quick, because that's already on your screen. To victory, bonus power decreased from 4 to 8%. Is now going to be 1 to 3% as you get those extra statuses. Also, the bonus movement speed has been decreased. It was 2 to 6%. Is now going to be 1 to 2%. So the passive really nerfed heavily. It
I
still
know it
doesn't
looks
affect.
strange for us to be nerfing the least popular god in the game.
Can you
but
explain why we did it? Can you tell them the truth?
Everything else.
I
is
want
gonna
you to tell them the truth.
Everything else is going to be really strongly buffed. That's the truth.
Tell them about the 6%.
Everything else
Tell
is
them about it.
Through some interesting mathematical calculations, we have decided that Nike's win rate is about 7% contributed to her passive, which is like
Yes.
that's like a
Can I
50,
say it?
No, you can't. It's like a
Okay.
50 god jump. It's like a Pepsi God jump.
Just look at the
So-
numbers again.
Ye-
8% power percent
Yeah.
for 5 members of your team is actually just
It's
ridiculous.
insane.
She gets she gives her teammates more than a patch note show buff every time they are on in the game with her.
Yeah, it's
It's a
insane.
way to view-
It's
view
absolutely
this
insane. So we're nerfing the passive real hard, but we're buffing the rest of the kit.
And here's the
big
look
time.
at the other stuff that we're going to buff then. First up is going to be Rend. This ability now always fires all 3
Right.
hits. You don't have to proc your plan of action first of all. You just get it as standard. Does it still disarm on the 3rd hit?
It
John?
still
does.
disarms on the 3rd hit.
Does all
and
the same things, right?
All of this, that we're going to see is going to be because of the plan of action rework.
Plan of action is gone, so.
And that's it for Rend, as you can see. So basically,
That's all
3
Ren
hits.
needs.
That's all Ren needed.
This is a
and now
really
it's gonna
strong ability.
Even better wave clear and the chance to disarm. But we'll move on then to plan of action. And this is a full ability rework. So let me go through this.
Oh yeah, okay.
The ability name is called
Barrier formation.
Barrier
Oh, you're
Formation.
renaming the ability?
Yes.
It's a completely
You
new
can't
ability.
do
New
What?
name, new icon.
It is new aim, new ability, new icon, new name. It is called Barrier Formation.
Oh, I don't have that down.
This
so,
description is old. Don't read it entirely.
okay, why don't you describe it then?
I'm sorry.
No
sorry.
problem.
Me and Pod rewrote this last
Yes.
night.
So, okay,
But- so
walk
this is
us
a
through what this is.
This is a channeled ability. Nike channels into a new stance, her barrier formation, and summons a shield in front of her.
Okay.
This
it do?
shield blocks, it absorbs, like block stacks, all incoming ranged basic attacks. So you
Oh.
can run right at a hunter or mages and just absorb. You will take nothing, no
Basic
damage.
attack was the key
Basic
word there.
attacks
Okay.
only.
Okay.
So she has the shield wall. We know people have been asking for this ability in
Yeah.
Smite for a really long time. It's important that we implement it in this way with basic attacks because projectiles in Smite do not work in a way that is absorbed like this. All sorts of abilities in Smite have all these different categories that don't work well with this type of shield wall interaction. So it's designed just to absorb basic attacks, but it does a lot of other things. It also does damage and pushes enemy who get close in melee range.
What? Oh, okay.
As
This
you can
includes
see,
minions as well.
She's heavily slowed, so it's very hard to get multiple stacks on people in this regard. But what this lets Nike do is assume this frontline formation in front of her team and push closer towards enemies, blocking all hunter attacks, except abilities, and knocking back anyone else who tries to get into her team. So it gives her great peel. It gives her really good push. And you can even use this in really interesting applications in Wave. And finally, when the ability finishes, or if you refire it early, it detonates in that larger targeted area at the end. So even if you don't want any of those other effects, you can just go 2-2 real quick, just for a little extra burst damage.
How long does this last?
6 seconds.
6
So
seconds.
it'll be
Up
deployed
to-
for 6
up to.
seconds.
You can cancel it
But you
early.
can cancel
You
it
can
early
cancel,
if
you
you
can
choose
be
and it'll
crowd controlled
detonate.
out of it.
And you still get
Yep.
the detonate when you cancel.
Okay.
So it does a lot of things. It's a very interesting, it's a very unique ability. Everyone was saying that Nike didn't have her special twist that no other god has. This ability is very interesting and has a lot of unique applications that are different to other gods.
So blocks basic attack, also knocks people back if they get too close to her, and if she detonates again or at the end of this, it'll deal damage too.
And you can see she has slowed movement speed and even slowed camera rotation. If you activate it and turn, it takes her some time. So it prevents sort of shake and bake type of issues or spinning the camera around max speed to attempt to block things from all directions.
Someone's
It's
gonna
intended
try
to be
that.
Yeah.
a formation where you move in a consistent direction.
I'm disappointed I can't spin on the spot and block everything. That's what I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
That.
Unfortunately.
Okay, well that's not it for Nike because obviously plan of action, there's the little look at the rework. The Valiant Leap. This ability now will always travel at the fastest speed. So before you used to plan of action to get that faster speed, you're always going to move at that faster speed now. And still get the knock up and all the good stuff from that.
Yep.
Right?
Okay, and then also I've got Sentinel of Zeus. This ability no longer goes on cooldown if Nike dies during the warm-up time. Gain shield immediately.
We
is
did
what I
it.
got written down here.
The
Because there used to be that issue where you could die as you were trying to ult.
Yes, so this ability will not. The gain shield immediately is old line. I'm sorry. And that is quality of life fix. The ability still has the same animation time, same everything else. It's just you won't lose the cooldown unless you get the shield.
Right.
We also adjusted the shield. Everything else got buffed immediately to its plan of action. This one is somewhere in between.
Yes.
Without reading the exact numbers.
Plan of
it's-
action previously was a 20% increase to the ultimate. Now it's always going to be a 10%, I believe, at all ranks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Increase from previous numbers.
It's halfway in between the plan of action versions.
So it really feels like Nike got everything that she already had, a little bit toned down of a passive, well, quite a bit toned down on a passive, but she got an extra ability to use, so to speak.
And it's effective that plan of action was on 100% of the time, which
Right.
is a big buff.
Definitely, especially because the Ren's going to do 3 strikes as well. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see how Nike works out on the PTS and going forward.
Yeah,
You guys
please
can do
test this
feedback.
ability. Let us know your
Yeah.
feedback. We would still be happy to make some small tuning changes to it, PTS,
Yeah.
some small number of changes. It's a very unique ability, so we're interested to see how it applies.
One last thing I want to mention is that Plan of Action previously also had an HPA 5 passive component and bonus damage to your next abilities. Because Plan of Action is completely different, and now it's a reworked ability. Those are gone. So while it does look ridiculous that
Oh, good
Rend
point.
is,
Yeah.
happening 3 times, previously with Plan of Action and Rend, you were getting bonus damage per hit, and you were getting passive HP 5. So those components being removed also will help
Right.
the fact that we buffed all of our other abilities.
Losing that regen
It's
is
gonna be a big
something-
deal.
If you're a Nike player, you might need to itemize a little differently around that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to move on as we've got still plenty more gods to go through. And the next one I'm going to mention real quick is Odin is going to get a small buff this patch to Raven Shout. Decreased cooldown of the Raven Shout from 15 seconds is now going to scale all the way down as you max it up to 11 seconds. And that'll just match the leap as well.
Yeah, it'll match the leap, and this is targeted towards making sure that he feels impactful outside of just being someone that drops an ultimate. That's traditionally been like his role as ult as a really heavy counter to a lot of things. We've addressed that in a lot of patches, but that made him feel a bit underwhelming. We brought some core power back to his other abilities.
Okay, that's it for Odin. We'll move on to Oleron next. Overflowing Divinity. We fixed a bug where the damage fall-off did not affect the magical power scaling on this ability. We've also increased the base damage per shot from 30 to 70. It's now going to be 35 to 95. Increased the magical power scaling per shot from 10% to 15%. Hitting the same enemy with each shot now deals 20% less damage per shot, increased from 10%. Decrease the minimum damage that each shot can do from 20% of total damage to 10%. This will cause shots to more quickly decay in damage while lowering the lowest damage they can deal. And the projectiles now start randomizing the hit location from the second projectile increased from the 5th. This is all about the second ability here.
This is all about the refire of the second ability.
It's a lot of text. It's mostly just a bug fix and a slight buff to the first hit and a nerf to the later hits.
Okay.
Yeah, and
makes
the
a lot of
bug
sense.
fix had a lot to do also with like the top end damage it could deal. So some of the balance changes had to be were targeted towards addressing the change due to the bug fix as well.
For the most part, your first 5 shots, pretty much at all ranks, will be doing more damage than before, which will help in cases where people are trying to run away or it's kind of hard to hit that ability unless people are CC'd. And in those cases where players are CC'd or on minions or jungle camps, it's going to be doing less damage overall.
I think that's fair. I think the first shot is generally the hardest because you don't really feel it. If someone stood still, it's easy to hit, but outside of that, makes a lot of sense for all around. Next up, Rama on the list. Astral Barrage. We've shifted the damage for each successive shot that does damage, from 50 to 100%. It's now going to be 70 to 100%. So an early game shift and second tier 2. But we've reduced the damage from 200 to 660% scaling. Will now be 180 to 540 with 55% of your physical power scaling instead. So it's going to hit harder, but equal, basically.
This one, we
is what
might
it
as
feels
well
like
have
to me.
not written all the numbers.
Right.
This one is a damage consistency pass.
Okay.
Right now, his shots have extremely intense scaling between the 3 shots. We're just leveling that off a little bit. The total amount of damage his ultimate can deal is about the same.
Okay.
It's very close. It's not exactly the same. It's a little bit more. Flairbit will help you out later if you want to see those exact numbers.
He got 2 references on a show.
I know,
That's
he
that's too
deserves
much.
it.
Oh,
He
no,
deserves it.
Actually,
Too
he
much.
helped a lot with the Oleron numbers too.
Yeah,
he wanted to
yeah,
shout
yeah,
out there, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted
True,
I wanted
true.
to
Well,
make
if
sure.
Oleron's
He did a
bad,
really
so
nice,
we
pretty
took
graphic.
But
Right,
what this is
right.
going to do is, first of all, it's going to make the first shot more impactful with Rama, so be careful for that.
Okay.
And it's going to make the last shot not so insanely high damaging. Of course, it's still very important to hit all 3 to kill people, but just going to even him up a little bit. This god, an overwhelming large amount of people cannot perform with this god.
Including the professionals trying to hit all 3 snipes. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, so it's just a slight equalizing.
Well, the next one on the list is going to be Scotty, and I'm going to go a little bit more in detail on Scotty too, as she does have a bit of a rework added in here too. Calder, first of all, the Winter Wolf. If Calder has 0 HP, Scotty gains 10% increased physical power. So,
don't kill Call.
Oh no.
Dog is dead.
He comes back.
Scotty gets angry and does more damage. Calder increased hit point regeneration as well from 7 seconds to 5 seconds, so he should be up a little bit more often. And that also that will mean that you won't have that 10% increased physical power when that's regenerated as well. But then we'll move on to the rework ability, and may God have mercy on all your souls here. Winter's Grasp, the ultimate. A snowstorm summons around Scotty as she chooses a location for Calder to leap towards. No, he doesn't run. He freaking leaps in there, son. Upon reaching the location, a snowstorm also surrounds Calder, being hit by an initial hit of either snowstorm roots enemies in the area. Calder resurrects if he is down and immediately leaps upon ability activation. You can throw the ultimate is basically what that reads, guys.
Right. Yep. This is first of all, thank you to the community for discussing with us these changes. They're very influenced by you. By Reddit, Twitter, Olympians, Pro Discord. We really appreciate it. Scotty is a goddess very close to my heart, so I'm really happy to make her feel way better to play. We gave her an additional passive. I'm pretty convinced that Calder as a passive is still quite potent, but now she has another one, so if you want to be a technicality, you don't have that point anymore to use against us. She has a passive. And now you don't have that quality of life problem where when you send Calder in, he gets turned around at the last second. You just whiff your whole ultimate. Now you can just aim that spot. He does all of the same things, same damage, same route, same duration, same health heal. He just goes to the spot you choose. So it's going to add a lot of control to that ability.
More effective.
And if Calder was already attacking that target and used the ultimate there, he won't like leap again. He will just do it immediately like he did before. So it's strictly a quality of life increase.
Definitely play around with this in the PTS, guys, because it's something that you want to have fun with and actually experiment with to see how effective this will be as a change, because it's a pretty big buff. I also want to make sure that we all realize as well, we do not condone throwing your pets around, even though Scotty is going to be doing so in this next patch. Moving on then to another god that's been in and out over the years. Thor is getting a lot of changes this patch. What's the main goal with Thor here, guys?
Well, Thor has a couple passes. Specifically, we want to bring something more unique to his theming, just add more to his character. He has some themes and some ideas and some visuals, but they're not super conveyed through all of his abilities. We're going to add a new element that really ties that all together.
Yep.
As well as
a new element, nice.
Element, like, quite literally. And we just want his kit to flow a little better. We want to. The way we described it is, his kit has some very specific purposes. We're trying to make his kit better at what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Well, let's see how this works out then. First of all, we'll start off with the passive Mjolnir's Attunement. Fix an issue where players at max range would be hit by an initial hit. Sorry, that's the one.
Yep,
fix an initial hit by
But not by the return
not
hit.
by the return
Yeah, so
hit.
this is the
so
max
this is the ghost
range.
hits,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Ghost hits, whiffed hits, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you'd throw it out, you'd hit someone, and they'd only take one source of damage, which doesn't make any sense because if they were hit by the initial hit, they should be hit by the return hit.
Exactly.
And if they were hit by just the return hit, why didn't the initial hit
Yeah,
hit?
Pon, why?
It's fixed.
Well, we fixed it.
Better had be
This
too.
is another one that was
Nice.
tough to track down, been in the game forever, but
Took us
this is
6
this is big.
seasons, but we made it.
We
That's
did
the
it.
main
Well, we
thing.
hope so.
Berserker's Barrage is what we're going to move
This
on
is
to
a
next. And
big
this
one.
is
This
an
is a big one.
ability rework. With rework, this ability says here, Thor spins his hammer around him, dealing damage to enemies in front of him up to 3 times, and those behind him up to 2 times. The final swing deals extra damage. Thor is immune to knock-up for the duration. The cooldown's been reduced from 11 seconds to 8 seconds. The mana cost has gone down as well. The damage per hit has been changed, and the final damage swing is a different variation than the normal damage swing. I'm not going to read every number out
Yeah,
there, guys.
don't worry about it.
But as you can see, it's very quick here, guys. and
That is the key.
The CD is also much lower.
Yeah, cooldown's lower, the damage comes out quicker, and this does a few things. One, it increases his clear speed overall as a whole. It lets him be more of a brawler. He can get in, and if you fight him more regularly, he gets us up more quickly. And also, it removes a lot of the weird cases. If you're a Thor main, you often have to know that, okay, I'm going to get 2 ticks and immediately cancel it because actually basic attacking is more efficient.
Sure.
And I also know I have to right-click cancel out of the final tick because the final tick lasts too long. There's a lot of weird interactions that occur with how long basically the long channel time creates some weird gameplay scenarios.
Right.
Shortening it up means it's a very responsive, snappy ability. It's useful just to quickly throw out. It doesn't interfere too much with your combo, and it helps make your combo actually flow a bit more fluidly as a whole. And this should just overall help Thor feel better.
It also reduces the variability a little bit, because one of the problems with this ability is that if you let it go for the entire duration, it does a lot of damage to multiple
Like
different
an
people.
insane number.
Yeah, but if you get silenced, you get crowd controlled almost right at the beginning of it, you're getting almost nothing.
After testing with this, does it still feel about the same amount of damage? Has the damage gone down overall?
Damage has definitely gone down compared to a full duration Berserker Barrage from
But
before.
that never
Because
happened.
that
So I
number
would
was
say
like
the damage
1,000.
feels like it's gone up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it also has more time to basic attack too, so you can auto do the spin auto, which helps make up for that damage loss and actually exceed it.
Get those
And
cancels in there.
Yeah, one last thing is that there's actually another, a different kind of component to this ability, which is a little bit different than anything we've done, where the third hit in front does more damage than the other two hits, which means you want to be tracking your enemy and also having them constantly be in front of you to get the extra powerful
So
hit at the
aim
end.
at the target you're trying to
You'll
hit.
need to keep your aim through the end. Yeah, that's a big change to
Okay.
what Thor players are used to. You can kind of spin away.
Yeah.
You need to keep tracking the target until you finish the animation. But that helps encourage players to follow up with those additional basics, make
That's
the whole
fair.
kit flow together.
Now,
But now
not-
let's get to the thunder.
Only
Yeah,
that,
not a
Anvil
thunder.
of Dawn is going to have a new component. After Thor lands from his ultimate, his hammer Mjolnir is infused with lightning. During this buff state, each of his basic attacks chain lightning to nearby enemy gods, damaging them with each hit. It'll scale from 20 to 60 plus 50% of your physical power and last 6 seconds. Enemies hit by this lightning will take 50% damage from the subsequent lightning.
Not only your basic attacks, but your abilities too.
Yeah, if
Oh,
Mjolnir
abilities
hits,
is what?
So
Wait, what?
Mjolnir at all hits.
which happens to be every ability, but and
doesn't-
basic attack.
Except for his
the rift.
his
Yeah.
rift, because that's not, damaging anyways.
So he was
Oh
getting
my days.
He was getting chain lightning triggers on the hammer, both in and out,
Yep.
as well as all 3 spins. So you can get 5 lightning triggers immediately by just going with a 1-1-3.
Which is also why that rule of every subsequent hit deals 50% less damage exists, because as you can see, this can do a lot of damage, but it only works on enemy gods. So if there's minions in the way, you're not blowing
So it
everyone
will
up.
work on minions.
Exactly.
Okay, and it won't. Will the lightning jump to minions at all? Or does
Nope,
it only
it
jump
won't
to
even
gods
target
only?
them.
Okay. Does that work on jungle camps and things as
Yes.
well?
No. So
The
jungle-
large-
They count as minions.
Right, sorry, the arc
Yeah.
lightning will not go to
So I just
gods.
wanted to make sure, like,
only on gods.
you can't use it on fire giant to bounce it
Exactly.
around people and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's it for Thor. We've still got a couple more to go through, so I'm going
more.
to have to move along to Toth next on the list. And this is going to be ability tweaks for this one, is what I'm seeing here. Toth, Hieroglyphic Assault. Every time an enemy god is hit by this ability, the ability's cooldown is reduced upon finishing by 1 second. This can only proc once per ability fire and cannot proc from multiple gods hit in the same projectile. We've also reduced the damage per shot from 45 to 125. It's now going to be 40 to 120 and lower scaling too. And hitting an enemy with this ability increases the damage they take from each subsequent shot by 20%. Walk me through real quick in layman's terms what this is going to mean.
Thoth has an interesting balance history. He was never really performing that well, even when pros were picking him up, but the community feedback was strong. So he was undertuned quite a bit. We're trying to bring him back, and we're trying to focus on very specifically how we bring him back.
Okay.
And that is through rewarding skill shots. This is what he's designed to do. So what essentially what happened here is Hieroglyphic Assault got nerfed. To put it in the simplest senses, its base damage got nerfed, which
Right.
is strange, right? Okay, the god's already suffering.
Sure.
But what we're doing here is we're rewarding Thoth for hitting successive hits of Hieroglyphic Assault.
Okay.
So now that the base damage is nerfed, that's fine. But if you end up hitting all 3 targets, that damage is going to ramp up, and you're going to get up to 3 seconds off the next cooldown of Hieroglyphic Assault. So he'll be firing more Hieroglyphic Assaults, and the damage will be ramping up if you hit the 1, 2, 3. Gives this really fun little tension moment when you're fighting against Thoth, where you really want to avoid, as you get hit, the intensity goes up, and you're like, okay, I got hit once, I better not get hit. Oh, twice? Okay, now I really need a juke. Those types of feels are really fun, as well as lets Thoth fire the ability more often, which is really important for frustration reasons. Like one big ability that one-shots you one time, that's really frustrating. But if you get hit by 20 skill shots and you die, then you kind of understand why you died.
So if the Toth player is more effective at landing the ability, he's going to be able to fire more. But if he's not as good at landing the ability, or his enemy's juking more, you can potentially punish him for that.
Right, exactly. And
Okay.
also, because this extra rule only works on enemy gods, you're actually going to be doing less damage to minions because we did nerf the base damage and the scaling. So that means that his extremely potent early game that he has once he gets his wall, or extremely safe and, pretty high damage, is going to be less than it was before. So it's really going to help him scale up towards the mid and late game where he should shine.
Well, we'll see how Toth does on that in the PTS2. We'll move on then to Raven, who's going to get a small change this patch. Not much of one here, but Ravana. 10-hand Shadow Fist decreased the cooldown from 18 seconds to 16 seconds. I guess that's just to make him a little bit more consistent along with the other assassins.
Consistency is key.
Okay.
And also trying to avoid buffing the things that are frustrating about him, like his evasion ability, right? Like we want to bring some power to him, but we don't want to bring power to like his backflip that causes him to be immune to damage, or his ultimate that lets him engage really heavily. Just more consistency overall on his core kit.
And the final god.
One more.
Finally got to the final god that's
We're
going to
there.
get a balance adjustment. This patch is going to be Zeus. Yes, he's the last on the list. The passive added text to show duration of charges.
Thanks, David.
And new component to detonate the third ability. After this ability is used, there is now a delay time of 0.3 seconds before the enemy is hit with damage. What? Is that going to be... Notice how aggro could be heard from across the room because he knows exactly... There's going to be a little lightning storm.
Yeah,
there
this
that shows up.
visual and auditory.
Visual and auditory
Wait a
clarity.
second! You did a nerf to Zeus as he just got a new skin. What is this?
Right? I don't know.
How are we supposed to sell them?
So Zeus is really strong right now.
No,
We've actually
really?
been seeing him in SPL. People used to think Zeus was kind of a meme for the longest time, but he was always insanely strong in at Arena, Joust, etc. He's now really strong in all modes. We wanted to take this opportunity to help with a key frustration point and visual clarity point that this is another thing we've kind of been wanting to do for a long time. So Detonate, you have no information that you're just going to instantly die at any point.
You don't even know when to Aegis. In fact,
The
it's kind of like
gamble
a
of Vegas.
Well,
like,
because it just
oh.
got nerfed as well over time, didn't it?
Right.
Because it used to potentially have a bit more of a window.
You could see you only had 2 seconds left on the Detonate and then activate your but that's still insane. Like, that's still so narrow. So now you can actually see when that first lightning bolt shows up, you can hit your Aegis and make sure that you'll prevent the actual damage.
Or
See the light
shield, or
plus
meditate, or
Shields,
shell.
meditate. You can actually watch the ground around the Odins as you detonate. You can see the closing circle that gives you very clear indicator when you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
really
So
cool.
this is technically a nerf, but doesn't actually change his as damage output or cooldowns or anything in any way. It's purely visual feedback and responsiveness. So
That's cool.
if you're playing against players who are not Aegising or dodging or anything
That's not
anyway,
gonna change
you're not going to
anything,
notice
right.
any change. So
Scotty, Thor, Zeus, Toth. There's quite a few of
Isis,
Nike,
Apollo.
Yeah,
Nike.
Apollo. Oh, and her. Okay, it's going to go on for days. A lot of different changes to the gods, gentlemen. Thank you so much. The main question I have right now, though, is when is the PTS going to be up?
we just wanted to make sure that everybody's clear that we're doing the show a day early because of the tournament. So
Yeah.
normally PTS would be ready tomorrow. It might not be ready tonight.
Okay.
Keep an eye on our social media. I do not have confirmation yet when it will be, but I know people expect it after the patch show, but I want to remind people we're a day earlier, so
Okay.
so we need that. We might need that one day.
Cool.
Because this is a lot of stuff.
Well, keep
That's
an
a
eye
lot
on
of stuff.
social media. We'll try and give you an update on when PTS out. The sooner we can get it to you, we will. With that, though, we're going to take a quick break, and here's a little look at what we've got coming in the Battle Pass.
Team up, play God. SMITE on Nintendo Switch. Download for free on the Nintendo eShop today.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome back. It's time to get towards the skin section. I hope you've all recovered from the horrible, devastating news of a terrible Zeus nerf. I know, it was going so well before that, too. A great midseason patch sullied by a terrible Zeus nerf. I'm so sad. I'll get over it eventually, but we've got to get to some of the skins and to go over the new Battle Pass as well. I've got an esteemed group with me here on the couch. We've got Tina, Vivian, and Tori joining us. Everybody, welcome. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move pretty quick because MSI looms. So let's start with this battle pass. And Vivian, let's start with you. Sweet Victory, the theme of this battle pass. Run us through it.
Okay, so like the last Battle Pass, we created a world for this one as well. The last one was the cyberpunk world. This time, it is a world where the digital entertainment media has taken over, and they are like the big shots of the world. So the world is just divided into two sides. So there are the people who accept and enjoy the new way of living, and then there's those who are kind of stuck in the past, like what it used to be, the good old times, basically.
Okay.
And in this Battle Pass, we have several skins that kind of covers like those who really embrace the new way, those who are kind of like in between, and then those who are kind of like, well, this is the world it used to be. Let me remind you how it is.
Okay, I can dig it. Let's start with the very first one then, and that's Power Up Hera. You guys have probably seen a lot of this teaser art and that kind of stuff. Tina, I think I saw this on your Twitter page as well. She's a reigning arcade champ who also battles in the bot dueling arena along with her companion pilot, Widget. That's a cute cat name. Look, guys, I've got a question for you right away. Kepri and Kuzenbo have been looking for a gun for a long time, and we gave Hera one first. What's the deal with this? Okay, just wait indeed. There's Widget. That's so.
Look at Widget. No, you have to close up on him inside.
He is so
Yeah,
cute. Look at the cat.
Look at him.
Dude, he is
so angry.
fierce. Yeah,
he's
he's going to
fierce.
town,
He's
man.
gonna beat you up.
For sure, 100%. I love the blue and pink effects. We've done that. I think it kind of reminds me of the Discordia skin or something like that, but I absolutely love it. It certainly works well here. I see that we have a VXG on this one that I definitely want to get to right away.
Out?
Maybe.
Oh, Widget!
He's flying around with me.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I love the ragdoll effect. He's just floating through. I love it. Let's take a listen to the voice back here.
You kick butt. We make a great team. Attack! Defend! Oh, come on. You're not gonna back away now, are ya? You're so bad at RPGs. When somebody asks you where you're stuck, you say, the file select screen.
There you have it right there, Hera. We're going to be seeing more of this in a little bit as well, so stay tuned for that. All right, we also have Funpocalypse Gibalanque. Most apocalypses I would not describe as fun, but this one apparently is, right?
He's very. It's kind of creepy.
Yes.
It's a little
Makes me
unsettling.
a little uneasy.
It's kind of cute.
A little bit.
Brad Venable voiced this character, and he's voiced many very great, a lot of SMITE characters already. And I basically told him to sound like he's on cocaine.
Okay.
And it came out fantastic.
That's
Once you listen to it, you will understand.
I actually haven't even heard it yet.
Oh, well, I just saw this character and I thought he was on drugs, so.
Oh, that kind of.
I mean, you don't really wear the bunny head like chilling, right?
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like no one does that casually.
If you went through what he went through in
Exactly,
this new world,
exactly
I am
this.
sure you.
That's a
Yeah,
great
you
point.
gotta get through it.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's take a listen.
You're good. Hells yeah. I'm the best. I don't like your head. You could use a new one. I think mascots are the hardest roles for actors to play. They have to really get into their characters.
It looks like he has a new weapon here as well. Oh, we'll take a look at it later.
Okay.
Yeah, we got. Hey, like I said, we got to keep it rolling here. That the balance section quite extensive on the mid-season patch. Sweetie Pie Soul next up on the list. This one is a recolor of the Sweet Tooth Soul skin.
Yes.
So very similar to that. You know it, you love it. Just looks a little bit different. If you're a fan of blue,
She's just a blueberry now. Blueberry bubblegum.
I prefer blueberry bubblegum actually.
Blue raspberry. For some
Blue
reason.
raspberry.
raspberry.
Yeah, yeah, blue raspberry, very good. So I'm personally a fan
I
of this
love
one.
those effects.
We also have Sweet Justice Nemesis. This one, an interesting one for Nemesis. Number one, you can see your eyes. That's a big deal.
Only
Yeah.
one.
It's like
Well,
the first
Only
time.
one.
Yeah.
So,
You only get one.
but still, I mean, you could that's one more than we've seen before.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
Baby
That's
steps.
true.
Yeah, that's 100% more eyes. That is not how percentages work. Give me the backstory behind this skin. I love the idea.
So this one's a real treat because not only is it like so different from all the first skins so far, it's actually designed by our lead character artist who actually don't usually do concepts. So he's really good at whimsical things, and this one just came out like super nice. And her lore is that she's the one that's kind of in between the old way and the new ways, and she's really into wizardry.
Okay.
But she also owns a candy shop, so she likes to kind of like find the next new social media item. So she accidentally created a candy soul and ice creamy mirror.
Attack!
Oh. She created Soul in Your Mirror. That's dope. Let's take a listen to the voice pack here for Nemesis.
I am in awe. You can thank me later. I should transform you into a chocolate bunny. They are rather tasty. Why don't angry witches ride their candy sticks? Because they're afraid of flying off the handle.
Gotta say, her sword, that like hard rock candy, underrated. I like that kind of candy. I might be in the minority there, but I'll hop out on the limb. We also have Rematch Hera, and this might look pretty familiar to you. This is part of the prestige track of the Battle Pass, which is a new sort of system. Tina, why don't you run us through it?
So we added 60 additional levels to the Battle Pass. Once you complete the base Battle Pass, and you feel like, wanting more of a challenge or just grinding, you can go all the way up another 60 levels and get the limited Hera skin that is the one on the screen right now.
Yeah, that's Rematch Hera for you there.
Yes, Rematch Hera. Thank you.
I got you. No worries. That's what I'm here for. So once you complete the Battle Pass, you'll reset at level 1 on the new Prestige track. It'll get easier again, just like you're starting the Battle Pass from level 1. Now, free players can also earn Prestige Pass progress, so you don't have to buy into the Battle Pass in order to try and get towards Rematch Hera. And the usual free and premium tracks have not had any changes to their XP requirements or pricing, and rewards are generally in the same places as the previous passes. So that's just a cool, different, prestigious look for that Hera skin. We've got some more skins coming up right after this, but first we got to throw it over to Isaiah and Hindu Man over on the desk.
We do, and apologies again for how quick we're going through some of this stuff. It's just, we've got a tournament to go on to as well. Joined now, however, by Isaiah to go through some community and esports news. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you, Hindu?
Yeah, not so bad. Are you okay on social media so far today?
I'm doing good, doing good. Everyone's super hype.
That's a good news. Yeah. Well, let's start off then with a little bit more hype news. There is actually an Ultimate God Pack sale going on at the moment, or coming soon?
No, it's going on right now on Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. The Ultimate God Pack is 50% off. It's a crazy deal. If you don't have the Ultimate God Pack, I don't know what you're doing. Go ahead and get it for 50% off.
It makes no sense not to have this. In all honesty,
it's
guys,
a ridiculous
the fact
deal.
that every single time a new God comes out, you'll get it free and you don't have to grind the favor to pick it up or buy gems for it. Get the God Pack. You've got a chance now, 50% off on Switch and Xbox One for you all. Next up, though, we've also got the Twitch Prime offer, which we've been doing consistently.
Yeah.
I heard there's a rumor that this is extended.
Yeah, it got extended. So it was supposed to end last week, but our friends over at Twitch were like, you know what? Let's extend it for another month. So you guys still have until July 29th to claim that Prince of Darkness Hades bundle, and that unlocks all of the Twitch Prime skins that we've done this year. So everything you see on your screen, you get it for free.
Not gonna lie, Isaiah. I forgot to do that, yeah.
Oh, well, you've got just enough time.
If I've not done it, I'm pretty sure there's others too. Make sure you use your Twitch Prime and get yourself those skins as well. And last, but certainly not least, I've got down here Olympians Summit. What's this about?
So we've got our SMITE Player Council, the Olympians, a group of 9 players that were elected by you, the community, to serve as a player council and gather feedback and help us at Titanforge Games make SMITE even better. So our inaugural summit is happening next week. We're flying all 9 members of the summit to Hi-Rez Studios for 3 days filled with workshops, breakout sessions, and they're going to help us with our plans for 2020 and SMITE to make sure that we've got everything on track.
Cool. So if you don't like what happens in 2020, you blame the Olympians.
Nah, don't blame the Olympians.
That's what they're there for, right? They're to save us the problem.
Right.
Well, then, if it's not only that, boys and girls, esports is going on as always. SMITE is very, very focused on esports, and Day 2 of the MSI will continue straight after this and get to see which of the teams actually make it through into the main event tomorrow later on. But with that, it's time for me and Isaiah to disappear and go and read about all your feedback about the latest update coming to you. For now, though, we'll head back to Ryan on the casual set to go through some more of those skins.
Thank you very much, guys. That's right. We're coming back to the casual set. We got a new face joining us here. We got Wolf Dog, community artist. You all know him. You all love him. Look, if Wolf Dog's here, that means we've got some extra sick skins designed by Wolf Dog to go over.
Yes.
But first, we're gonna start with the reparations, the repayment of this Zeus nerf. It's a sick Zeus skin. Zappy Chibi Zeus. He's so cute and so lovable. What? Like, look at him. I don't care if this peacock's mad because he looks good. I'm about this skin, guys. This is smart of you to kind of pair these two things together, because now I feel a little bit better about myself. I'm not quite as sad. I love. I mean,
oh man, that's great.
Stop it.
That's great.
That is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
That is hilarious. Tori, for the animation side, is it kind of hard to match some of the animations, these tiny little models like this?
Yes, exactly right. I mean, a lot of the times we have to go back and refix a lot of the animations because the scale is so different. But it's always a lot of fun and kind of challenging in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a listen to the voice pack here for Zappy Chibi Zeus.
Attack! Wow, show off! Woohoo! Like I said, God of Gods. Do you even know who you're looking at? Yeah, the Master of Olympus. You know, I wish Medusa would stop objectifying people.
That's a good joke. I like that.
Thank you.
I liked that joke. That was funny.
You know who voiced that?
Who is that?
Chris Abbott.
Really?
Yeah, it's Chris
My
Abbott.
boy. My boy. Of course. No one better for the Zeus skin. I love it. All right, Spirit Sun Ho Yi. Next up on our list. This is just this color palette is super awesome. There's like a red Ho Yi skin. There's a green Ho Yi skin. Now we get this celestial blue sort of Ho Yi skin.
He's doing a bit of a Rama impersonation here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely works for him. That alt targeter looks sweet.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous.
Are those meteors or crystals? I don't really care.
Crystals.
Crystals, okay. I'm down with that. Oh yeah, the shattering effect on the 3 as well. Okay, I'm getting it now. It's all starting to come together. Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah.
You know? All right, let's take a listen to the voice pack here for Spirit Sun Ho Yi.
Attack! You show potential. Woohoo! Yes, I am the best. I am ready to test my skills. Are you? Power level 1000 watt? No, no one really measures power like that.
All right, next up we have Snow Strix Ra. A different style for the Ra, man. Normally the blazing hot sun god. Now the freezing cold snow owl. I love it. I think it's a really cool sort of twist on him, and kind of fits with that old icy crystal that we just saw. And he looks very warm with that jacket. I mean, you're gonna be sweating in that thing for sure.
Super excited for this. Actually, you probably didn't know this, but my first favorite animal was actually owl.
Really?
Yeah, not a wolf. So
owls are cool, man.
Very excited for this skin.
This is definitely the one for you then. A little snowstorm in the 3. The icy effects sound great. I mean, they definitely fit this sort of style.
The cracking sound?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Beautiful. He does have a VXG that I want to take a look at for sure.
What?
And then he gets to skate around. Yeah,
Okay.
sign me up for some of that.
Yeah, Rusty knocked this one out of the park.
That is
Looks great.
so
Cool,
sweet.
actually. Yeah.
VXGs are OP. Can I say that? Like it really does. Once your favorite god is a cool VXG, like I'm sold.
I still always play the bush one.
Oh my gosh.
Like the Ho Yi
The
bush.
Ho Yi bush.
Just hide in the bush.
I just love the bush.
Astonishing.
Nothing you can do about that. Here's the voice pack for Snow
animation
Strix Ra.
is the best VXG parts, yeah.
I am Winter Storm. Come on, you aren't that daft to take me on, are you? Wait till I tell you about my battle today. It was a hoot.
Come on, man. You can't be laughing at that. That was to me, by the way. I laughed at that.
Are you listening to his laughs?
Yeah, the laugh is great. Raw has to have a great laugh. That's just part of it. Perfect. Well done. Well done,
The new
Tina.
voice actor I used too, so it was hard to tell him like how crazy Ra's previous laughs are.
Right.
So he had to Yeah, definitely.
All right, Wolf Dog, we're starting off with your first one of your skins of the patch, Molten Shogun Erlong Shen. Erlong been desperate for a skin for a while.
Yes.
What inspired you for this sort of style for him?
So one of the things I've heard all the time on Reddit and Twitter and everything is they want Erlang to have more of a sort of Oriental feel. So I try to go with a little more Asian style armor, a little more points, and then sort of fit in that flaming sort of texture to it. So really glad I got to do this skin because I got to actually work on a dog this time. So pretty proud of his dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Not quite a wolf, but
No,
a
not
smaller.
yet. Not yet.
Not yet, exactly. Not yet on that one. That is sweet. I mean, Erlong has really needed one for a while. I know some people in the community have been bugging me in particular to try and get this god a skin, and now they can stop asking me. You know, now we're good to go.
Love that.
A fiery mink.
That's perfect.
It's like a little. That is sweet. I love it. And Erlong's like so cheery all the time in his default skin. He's like, "Hey, it's me, Erlong Shen," and now he's like,
He's
way
got a lot of
angry.
funny skins.
Yeah, I like.
It gets a little more serious.
Absolutely. And the theming works well with the fire. Definitely not the first thing that I would have thought of, but I think it works beautifully here. Really awesome. Let's take a listen to the voice
Could
back.
have been better. I guess you're adequate. I am the greatest. You dare question who's the best? Torture is my middle name. What does a burning ember like to sing? Goodness gracious, great balls of fire!
There you have it, Erlong.
Love it.
Back in the skin game, Molten Shogun Erlong Shen. And then we have Infantry Sylvanas.
Yes.
It's a great pun, number one, but Wolf Dog,
Great
this is
pun.
your
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is your sort of creation as well. It's awesome, man. I mean, it's so cool. The pun aside, just an awesome idea for a completely off the wall skin idea.
Yes, I absolutely love this. I haven't gotten to see the model yet, and now that I'm seeing it, it's amazing. I love this. They captured all the burning trees and everything like that from the Ardennes. It's perfect.
It looks great. I mean, your other you have the Agni skin as well that's kind of World War I inspired. That must be a favorite of yours.
Yes, yep. That's a favorite, and now this is probably my new favorite.
The infantry Sylvanas right there.
I think one of my favorite things is that he got to, this time we got to fit the Doughboy helmet on his head.
Yep. Don't have to worry about two heads like you did with Agni.
Right.
I suppose. Tori, is Sylvanas one of the harder ones to animate for? Because Sylvanas himself is the tiny guy on top, not the big tree
Right.
that you see.
Well, luckily with this one, we didn't have to do too much back and forth since it stayed similar to the original model. But Allie did the VXG for him, and I'm sure that was a real challenge to do, but she totally killed it.
Well, here is that VXG, and he's going to work, dude. He's setting up everything, jumping around.
Oh,
That
nice.
is way more Sylvanas movement than we've seen on just about every other skin. That is awesome.
That's fantastic.
I love it. That is so cool. Let's take a listen to the voice pack for him.
A right shot! Ha ha! Yes! I am the best! Nobody has gotten past Grover and I. Why will you be different? Huh. No matter which way you march, it's always uphill.
That's a great laugh. Another Sylvanas also underrated laugh character. Just in
Great
general.
accent too.
Seriously.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the accent
Love those
phenomenal.
voice lines.
Oh my gosh.
All right, let's take a listen to, or take a look at rather, Great Tengu Kernanos, our final skin of
I
the
totally
patch.
forgot this was Kernanos, by the way.
What's that?
I totally forgot it was Kernanos.
Yeah, he's got a different look to him,
Yeah.
but I saw this in game last week, I believe. At least the model itself. And this little sword he's got on his back is sweet. I'm about that, man. I wish I could just like carry around a little tiny sword. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'd do with it, but you know, that's fine.
Slash bitches, dude.
I would not do that. That's not what I would do. Maybe you would do that, Jimmy, but not me. Little gardens, and he turns them into toys. That's amazing.
Yes, they're all floppy and shit.
They're very floppy. As fish should be.
I love these animal skins that take animals and then turn them into other animals.
Yeah, absolutely. And this little garden.
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
it's
that's
beautiful.
Garden the fish.
That is amazing. You can put the fish in the garden. Oh, how nice. That's not really where fish usually go, but I can kind of get about it. In case you weren't. Whoa, okay.
All right.
We're cool with this. Yeah, just flying on his glaive.
I love how he's switching through all his stances right there.
That is awesome. In case you guys weren't aware, I clearly knew this for sure, but Tengu are legendary creatures from Japanese myth, often known for stirring up trouble, but also as masters of swordsmanship. Our Tengu shakes things up even more by polymorphing his foes into colorful koi fish.
Nice.
There you have it. Let's take a listen to the voice pack here for great Tengu Kurnanos.
No hesitation. Bow to my blade. Your spirit shines. The drums of war thunder. Don't bother giving your name. No one will remember you anyway. I've been known to throw caution to the wind.
There you have it. It's great Tengu Kurnanos. An insane patch. I mean, my booklet was only the skin section, and it was still thick. This doesn't have any of the balance section, which took an eternity because there were so many different changes.
Yeah.
If you missed all that, it'll be on our website. Make sure you go to our social medias as well. I believe PTS goes up tomorrow, they said, so make sure you check that out as soon as you can. And don't go anywhere because the Midseason Invitational is starting right after this. Don't go anywhere. I mean, the streams aren't even dropping, so we'll be right back with the Midseason Invitational. Thanks so much for watching the Midseason Update Patch Show, and we'll see you soon.